Well, the good news is that rain always makes the air fresher, cleans the buildings, no dirty sidewalks. The bad news is that it's delaying Game 3 of the 1993 World Series. Just when they get their first World Series in Philadelphia in 10 years, here comes the rain. And hi again, everybody. I'm Pat O'Brien. Welcome to CBS Sports' continuing coverage of the 1993 World Series. And at this moment, coverage of a minor rain delay. We expect to get this game in. It began raining about an hour ago, and about 45 minutes ago, they put the tarp out on the AstroTurf here at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. It continues to rain right now, and for the very latest, let's go down to the Blue Jays dugout and Jim Gray. Jim?
All right, Pat. Well, the rain interrupted the Blue Jays batting practice, and they are now still waiting here in the dugout. Joining us from Major League Baseball and representing Major League Baseball is Dick Wagner. Dick, what's the situation?
Well, we believe that from the weather experts, both the service that the Phillies have and the National Weather Service, that the rain will stop sometime after 8:30, fairly shortly, and it'll be a few minutes to get the field ready, and we'll be in business and start.
All right, Dick, we're told by the groundskeepers here that the drainage system is very good at Veterans Stadium, and it'll take 30 minutes to get it clear. Pat?
In case you keep thank you, Jim. In case you keep track of these things, the last game postponed by rain was Game 7 in 1986 between the Red Sox and the Mets. They did get the game in, and we expect to get this game in. No matter what, you will not miss any baseball here on CBS tonight when they get to the game. In the meantime, a special edition of Rescue 911 for you, and we'll be right here covering this story as we get set for Game 3. The Blue Jays and the Phillies. We are optimistic in Philly. See you later.
This is CBS.
What makes the wild thing wild on the Channel 10 News right after baseball?
Well, I'm gonna get my baby, gonna head on out of town, gonna leave my worries, won't let nothing get me down. Got my baby, got my Wrangler, oh Lord, it's a good life I have found.
There's only one Jeep, and it's only at your Key States Jeep and Eagle dealer.
Looks like it's going to be one of those days. Take it from us. Surprises. Over 1.5 million Americans depend on us. U.S. Healthcare, a health plan for living.
A terrific leaping catch.
You want heroes? Visit us in October. You want to be on the edge? Let your heroes do the October driving. Always be ready for the unexpected. Baseball, I think I love you.
We welcome you live to Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, where the rain continues to fall, but the ground crew has removed the tarp, and we are moments away from the start of Game 3 of the World Series. 58 degrees, the temperature as we approach game time, and there is the possibility that the rain will be off and on throughout the night, but baseball officials do expect to get this one in this evening. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Vet. I'm Sean McDonough along with Tim McCarver, and it's great to have you with us as the scene shifts to the National League Park for the first time in this series, and that means the DH will not be employed. The pitchers will bat for themselves, and all the speculation leading up to the start of tonight's game has been about what Cito Gaston would do with his troops. He's decided to use Paul Molitor at first base, Ed Sprague at third, and John Olerud is the odd man out.
And John Olerud, you may remember, is the American League batting champ. So you're not only replacing an American League batting champ, but defensively it could be perilous at first base for Paul Molitor. The reason? The Philadelphia Phillies are stacking 6 left-handed hitters against the Blue Jays tonight. Pat Henkin throws a lot of off-speed stuff that'll give the left-handed hitters a chance to pull the ball, and I think Paul Molitor could have a lot of action down at first tonight.
Pat Henkin is the starting pitcher tonight for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he'll be opposed by the lefty Danny Jackson. We'll return to Veterans Stadium after this word from your local station.
Emmy winners Tom Skerritt and Kathy Baker return in the Emmy-winning Best Dramatic Series. CBS invites you to experience television's best picket fences in 3 days.
This is CBS.
What makes the wild thing wild on the Channel 10 News right after baseball?
Well, I'm gonna get my baby, gonna head on out of town, gonna leave my worries, won't let nothing get me down. Got my baby, got my Wrangler, oh Lord, it's a good life I have found.
There's only one Jeep, and it's only at your Key States Jeep and Eagle dealer.
Looks like it's going to be one of those days. Take it from us. Full of surprises. Over 1.5 million Americans depend on us. U.S. Healthcare, a health plan for living.
Game 3 of the 1993 World Series is brought to you by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. Burger King and its everyday value menu. Have it your way. I love this place. Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires. And by Grape Nut Cereal, helps keep you strong all morning long.
Welcome back to Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, site of Game 3 of the 1993 World Series between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Philadelphia Phillies. These fans have waited 10 years for the return of the World Series, and they'll have to wait at least a little while longer as the ground crew has put tarps back on the field on the dirt parts of the infield. Let's check in with Jim Gray.
All right, Sean, I'm here with Dick Wagner, who represents Major League Baseball, and just as we speak, it looks as though they're going to be picking the tarps back up. What is the situation?
Well, we were to have the umpires at the plate about a minute after 9, and it was sprinkling, and they decided to go back in the room even though they were asked to go forward and have the meeting and be ready to start. The weather experts with the radar tell us that this is not enough to show on the radar even. But the umpires felt it was raining, and we'd like to get this thing started.
So you expect baseball to get underway right now?
Yes, very shortly.
All right, Sean, that's the latest from down on the field.
And interesting that the umpires, apparently against the request of the Major League Baseball officials, decided to go back to their room. And as you can see, it is raining. But the ground crew has removed the tarps from the 4 base areas. And one would imagine that the Phillies will be taking the field shortly. And as we say it, it starts to rain even harder. We'll be back in just a moment.
Rangers, Cherokees, Broncos, Explorers, Pathfinders, Blazers. Any pickup or 4x4, on-road or off. Introducing the tough new LTX Light Truck Series from Michelin.
For quick response. For smooth acceleration, turn him loose. For a cleaner engine, turn him loose. Move up to 93 octane Exxon Supreme and turn the Tiger loose.
This place. It's the new Burger King Everyday Value Menu with big Flame Broiled burgers for only 99 cents.
I can't do it myself for 99 cents.
Your favorite Burger King foods at new, lower, everyday prices, like the Croissant Combo served hot and fresh for $1.99. Check your Burger King Everyday Value Menu and be sure to try the delicious Flame Broiled Whopper Combo for $2.99.
That's great news for my pocketbook.
Value every day. Have it your way.
You're gonna want to come back every day.
There is a sound you'll hear in the triangle below Canal Street. It's the sound of German being spoken by those who are moved by the art. In your town, America, and the world, Beck's, the #1 imported German beer.
What would you do with a Motorola pager?
Mom's not home. Pager.
With a Motorola pager, the important people in your life can always reach you.
Ooh, this works.
The affordable, portable Motorola pager.
And welcome back live to Veterans Stadium. Jim Fregosi on the telephone in the Philadelphia Phillies dugout. And the ground crew has now begun the task of putting the entire tarp back on the field. So it's going to be more than a few minutes now before the Blue Jays and Phillies get after each other in Game 3. If you're just joining us, it started raining here in Philadelphia about 7:15 this evening and interrupted the Toronto Blue Jays batting practice and infield. The Phillies got their work in. And the ball game has not started at any point tonight. They do expect that the rain will move out of here. We've heard estimates ranging up to about 10 o'clock tonight before the rain should be fully clear. You heard moments ago Dick Wagner say that the weather service that they've consulted says the rain isn't even detectable on radar, but it is detectable if you're sitting in a seat outside here at Veterans Stadium. And Tim, the question obviously is what kind of an effect, if any, does this have on the players?
Well, I think it definitely has an effect on the starting pitchers. The starting pitchers have already warmed up. They have cooled off. It's been about 5 to 10 minutes, and the longer this is dragged out, then Pat Henkin of the Toronto Blue Jays, of course, it's not going to affect Henkin that much, but Danny Jackson has to get out there, and there's really no place for him to warm up. He doesn't really have time to go back to the bullpen to do it. So I would imagine the home plate umpire would give him a few extra minutes to warm up and make sure he's comfortable before the game begins.
Let's head back down to the Toronto dugout and rejoin Jim Gray. Jim?
All right, thank you, Sean. I'm with Toronto manager Gaston and Cito. How difficult is this for Pat Henkin and both of the pitchers here tonight?
Well, I think it's going to be tough. As long as it's not too long of a delay, it should be okay. But if it gets into 45 minutes to an hour, it's going to be tough. But, you know, look like they're going to try to play it, and I'd rather see us play it tonight than perhaps play it on Friday.
What does this do to a psyche of a team who's all geared up for a time to play in a World Series? It's a lot different than a regular rain delay, I'd imagine.
Well, that's true. And, of course, when you get all prepared to play and you have a rain delay, you go down, you get up, and sometimes you just hope that you can get yourself up again to play. And I know I never like to play in the rain, but sometimes you have to play in the rain.
Is it dangerous on the turf? You've played on turf for a long time. Is it dangerous, slick out there?
Well, it could be, and this turf looked like it's worn a little bit, and it could be a problem. Just depends on what type of shoes you're wearing.
You decided to use Paul Molitor instead of John Olerud over at first base tonight. Can you tell us why?
Well, that was a tough decision. Of course, you know, you're taking the league leader and hitting on the lineup. But, you know, if I felt like Paul could play third base, I just think it's unfair for Paul Molitor to put him at third base when he has not played there since the All-Star game. And, of course, he played 2 games in '90 and played quite a bit in '89. But I think it was unfair to him. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that Molitor doesn't set the 3 ball games there. So we'll play him tonight. And, of course, probably put him on the bench tomorrow and put John Olerud back in the ballpark.
Is it good for your team to stay out here right now, or are they better off in the clubhouse?
Well, like guys, you know, they just kind of go where they want to go. I think they feel comfortable out here is fine, and some of the guys are up in the clubhouse, so it's just kind of what you feel is comfortable for you.
All right, Cito, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Let's go back upstairs. Sean?
Thank you, Jim and Tim. Interesting in the last few days talking with Cito Gaston, as we do before every game. It's more than once that we've heard him talk about not wanting to put players in positions that would be unfair to them. When we asked him about the possibility of Juan Guzman coming back to start Game 4, he said he didn't want to do that because he's a young player with a bright future ahead of him. He hasn't yet reached the stage in his career where he makes big money, and therefore he didn't want to jeopardize his future, even though his team's in the World Series right now.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Juan Guzman, because I think that if the game is rained out tonight, it would benefit the Blue Jays, because what that would mean is that they would probably scratch Todd Stottlemyre, who is scheduled to be starter in Game 4. That would be able to for them to bring up Juan Guzman, have Dave Stewart start on Friday. So in effect, the 2 top starters with Toronto would be starting 2 each, or 4 of the first 5 ball games.
And of course, if there is a rain out here tonight, that would eliminate the travel day scheduled for Friday, and they would have to play on 5 consecutive days with the Blue Jays and Phillies. Once again, let's rejoin Jim Gray.
All right, we've run across dugouts. We're with the Phillies manager, Jim Fregosi. Jim, how difficult is this for your players?
Well, you know, the difficult part is that we've warmed up our pitchers, so now they have to sit and wait. That's the biggest problem.
And you will ask for more time from the umpires for that?
Well, yeah, they'll get their normal time, whatever it takes them on the mound to get themselves ready.
We just talked to Cito Gaston. What does it do to the psyche of a team? They're all geared up. This is the first time in 10 years here in Philadelphia that the World Series has come, and now everybody's delayed by rain. What does that do to the psyche of a team?
Well, you know, certain places in Toronto, they're not used to that because of the dome. But, you know, we have this kind of problem quite a bit. You know, I know our people thought that there was a break in the rain, and we tried to start it at 9:05, and we'll just take it from there.
You've had some rain delays here and then come back out on the field. What is the condition of Veterans Stadium, and how does the drainage work?
Well, it gets like, there's no question about it. Balls will go through the infield quicker, and they're tougher to catch.
They've taken the tarp off the field, so we may have baseball pretty soon. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Okay, babe. Take care.
Let's go back upstairs to Sean and Timmy.
Thank you, Jim and Jim. We'll have more from Veterans Stadium right after this.
Introducing one of the most visually distinct automobiles you've ever seen. If we show it to you now, you'll be so busy looking that you won't be listening, and you won't hear about its precision handling, sophisticated safety systems, and that it's the most technologically advanced Celica Toyota has ever created. Okay, now you can look. The all-new Celica. Watch out, it's coming.
Driver, do you have any Bud Light in your vehicle?
Yes.
Then I am Mr. Gallywikich.
You mean Dr. Galakowicz?
Yes, I am. This is so cool.
First time in a limo? Doctor?
In a limo this small.
If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light.
Sunday on CBS, the Cardinals face Steve Young and the Niners, or the Falcons battle the Saints. Whoop, there it is. I'm a big fan.
The rain delay continues, but now the umpires are out at home plate, and they're about to meet the managers and exchange lineup cards. So it does appear that we are minutes away from the start of Game 3 of the World Series between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Philadelphia Phillies. The series even at 1 win apiece as they come back to Philadelphia for Games 3, 4, and 5. Cito Gaston's lineup, the source of much speculation prior to tonight. Ricky Henderson leads off in left field. Batting second, the center fielder, Devon White. Paul Molitor will play first base tonight. He's hitting third. The cleanup hitter is right fielder Joe Carter. Roberto Alomar is the second baseman, batting fifth. Batting sixth at short, Tony Fernandez. Ed Sprague is the third baseman, hitting seventh. The catcher, Pat Borders, hits eighth, and Pat Henkin bats ninth. Pat Henkin has hit only 3 times since high school back in 1986. That was in spring training this year. He went 0 for 3 in spring training with 2 strikeouts and a ground out, and none of the Blue Jay pitchers are looking forward to hitting in the 3 games here in Philadelphia. Let's rejoin Jim Gray. Jim?
All right, we're just told by Major League Baseball that they're going to take the field in 2 minutes. So in 2 minutes, you'll be out with Danny Jackson. How much will this affect him?
I don't think at all. You know, it's we've had a couple of these before, but I don't think it should affect him at all.
To warm up and then to cool down, would this just be like an inning on the bench?
Probably. It's a little different because you're starting the game. You haven't actually been out there, but you know, he's a veteran pitcher. I'm sure he's done this before.
Hard to get psyched up. Yeah, you were all psyched up, ready to play the World Series, and you sit here for 45 minutes. It's tough to get back up again?
No, heck no. We're ready to go.
All right, Darren, thanks for joining us. Timmy and Sean?
We'll be back, we think, with the first pitch of the ball game right after this.
A startling proposal heads for New Orleans. A hard-fought contract is Chicago-bound. 3 sets of contact lenses are expected in Tampa by tomorrow morning. Express mail from the Postal Service will get them there, overnight, guaranteed, from just $9.95. Every day, overnight, we deliver for you.
This place. It's the new Burger King Everyday Value Menu with big Flame Broiled burgers for only 99 cents.
I can't do it myself for 99 cents.
Your favorite Burger King foods at new lower everyday prices, like the Croissant Combo served hot and fresh for $1.99. Check your Burger King Everyday Value Menu and be sure to try the delicious Flame Broiled Whopper Combo for $2.99.
That's great news for my pocketbook.
Value every day. Have it your way.
You're gonna want to come back every day.
Ba 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 ba, is back, is back. We love somebody like a cherry burns and red and wine. Bob is back, back, back on CBS.
The first 2 games were played at Skydome in Toronto. The Blue Jays won the first 8-5. Philadelphia evened the series with a 6-4 win in Game 2. Tonight's game to be played here at Philadelphia, obviously, and the next 2 games in this series will be played here at the Vet, with first pitch scheduled for 8:12 Eastern Time, airtime here on CBS, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and games 6 and 7, if necessary, would be back at Skydome Saturday and Sunday. And note the first pitch times 8:12 on Saturday, 8:29 on Sunday. The managers have exchanged lineup cards at home plate. Cito Gaston's lineup card had Paul Molitor on it, and he gave his reasons to Jim Gray, Tim, for playing Paul Molitor at first base instead of third. Paul Molitor has not played in a game at third base since 1990, and back then he only played in 2 games.
As far as first base is concerned, he hasn't played first base since September 3rd, and Paul has only played 23 games at first base this year. I think you can approach, as far as the rain is concerned, you could approach Molitor's playing first 2 ways. You could say, well, with the wet infield, Paul Molitor, it's going to be even tougher on Molitor at first base. Or you can take the attitude that it's neutralized all the positions, that because the infield is a bit wet, that all the infielders are going to have problems.
Once again, here's Jim Gray.
All right, I'm with Roberto Alomar. Roberto, what have you done for the past hour?
Well, I've been sitting around the dugout. I've been not doing that much, but now I'm going to do the job, and I'm looking forward to play baseball.
How much effect will it be for you guys not to have John Olerud over at first base tonight?
Well, I don't think it's going to be a lot of affect us. I think so we're going to try to do our best, and I know Johnny going to be there maybe in the latest inning.
It's time for baseball.
Time for baseball. I say hi to my dad's birthday tonight.
All right, let's go up to Sean and Timmy.
His dad, Sandy, is watching from Puerto Rico. The defense for the Phillies, Pete Incaviglia will be the left fielder. Lenny Dykstra in center field. Jim Eisenreich, who had a big 3-run homer in Game 2, will be the right fielder. Dave Hollins at third base, and Kevin Stocker at shortstop. Mariano Duncan, even with the right-hander pitching, this is his 3rd straight start against right-handed pitching. He'll be at second. John Kruk at first base. Darren Dalton behind the plate. And Danny Jackson one of his big wins in postseason play, and he has had several. He's 4-2 in postseason play. And Game 4 of the National League Championship Series, I think, was the turning point in that series. That evened the series at 2-2, and the Phillies won the last 2 games played against the Atlanta Braves.
Even the series and turned the momentum back in favor of Philadelphia as they went on to beat Atlanta in 6. The umpires, Mark Johnson of the American League, calls the balls and strikes. He's working in his first World Series this year. Charlie Williams of the National League at first. The American League's Tim McClelland at second. Dana DeMuth at third base. Dave Phillips, the crew chief, along the left field line. And Paul Runge has the plays in right. Paul Molitor, the choice to play first base tonight. And as you heard Roberto Alomar say, it's quite possible that we'll see John Olerud at some point in the ball game. Very likely, according to Cito Gaston, what he had to say to Jim Gray, that Olerud will be back in there tomorrow night when Philadelphia has a right-handed starter scheduled. Game 1 won by the Blue Jays. Roberto Alomar's defense was the big story, and he had a 2-run double that helped lead Toronto to the 8-5 win. And Jim Eisenreich had a 3-run homer that capped a 5-run third. The Phillies jumped off to a 5-0 lead against Dave Stewart in Game 2 and won 6-4. The first pitch was scheduled for 8:12. At the moment it's 9:24, so the rain delay. An hour and 12 minutes. And Rickey Henderson is ready to get this one started. He hopes to get himself started. He's had a quiet first 2 games of the series. Jackson's first pitch of Game 3, a called strike. Rickey's 1 for 6 in the first 2 games. He singled off Curt Schilling in Game 1. He has walked leading off the first inning in each of the 2 ball games. That was the bottom of the first up in Toronto. And despite the rain, you look around, you can't find an empty seat at the vet. A crowd of 62,000 expected. And right across the street at the Spectrum, they have a crowd of 14,000 in the building to watch a Madonna concert. So they expect a mammoth traffic jam. Perhaps the rain will help in that regard. The game will end a little bit later and give the concert goers a chance to get home. The 0-2 is outside.
Lenny Dykstra batting .375. He's been on base 6 times and has scored 3 runs. Rickey Henderson, a .167 average. He's been on base 3 times and he scored 1 run.
And they have been exchanging barbs back and forth through the media. Henderson, in the opinion of many, the greatest leadoff hitter of all time. But Lenny Dykstra wanted to point out that this year he was the best leadoff hitter in baseball. They've had different variations of that conversation running all week. Base hit. So Henderson has his second hit of the World Series, an opposite field single on a 2-2 pitch.
Danny Jackson features a fastball away and a breaking ball inside to right-handers. He rarely comes inside with a fastball. This ball a good pitch, and it's punched to right by Henderson to lead off the ball game.
Devon White 3 for 8 through the first 2 games, including a home run off Curt Schilling in Game 1. Henderson 0 for 1 in stolen base attempts in the World Series. Good sinking movement on the pitch from Jackson. 1 strike on White.
Maybe thinking, how will the running game be affected? My opinion, not at all. The infield is not that wet. It has been covered for the most part all evening. So I don't think the running game will be affected at all.
Henderson stole 53 bases during the regular season. 22 of those with Toronto. He has 24 stolen bases in his career in the postseason. That is the all-time record. Short lead that time as Jackson went to the plate and missed, leveling the count at 1-1 on Devon White.
The only time Henderson has tried to steal in this game was in Game 2, and Terry Mulholland throwing over to first, and he held him close enough. By the time he did run, Darren Daulton threw him out.
The infield at double play depth. And a ball outside, 2-1. And first baseman Paul Molitor waits on deck. There were 2 Toronto newspapers yesterday that pleaded with Cito Gaston to put Ricky Henderson on the bench and play somebody else in left field due to his ineffectiveness not only in the first 2 games in this World Series, but he hit 120 in the league championship series against Chicago, and in the regular season after joining Toronto hit just .215, so he has not been very productive since joining the Blue Jays. But as Cito Gaston said before the game tonight, he's capable of turning it up a notch at any time, and he can control the flow of a ball game almost single-handedly. Lamont White took ball 4, and the Blue Jays have the first 2 men on in the top of the first. And Darren Daulton goes to the mound to speak with Danny Jackson. Danny's 31 years old, from San Antonio, Texas. Went to high school in Colorado, attended the University of Oklahoma, and now makes his home in suburban Kansas City and Overland Park, Kansas. Paul Molitor, 3 for 7 over the first 2 games. Jackson to the plate with ball 1 low and in on Molitor.
It is imperative for the middle infielders to hold Henderson close, but look at Kevin Stocker. When he does that, he opens up the hole on the left side for Molitor to pop one through to left field. Henderson, by the way, has stolen third base 15 times this year in 16 tries.
For the most part, Paul Molitor has been a DH the last few years. Well, he has played in the field during his career. Most of his action has been at third base. Most recently 2 games in 1990 at third, 23 games at first base this year. Shoulder troubles have contributed to his being almost exclusively a DH in recent years, and that undoubtedly played a part in the decision to keep Paul away from third base. He joked when the idea was first raised about the need for the pitchers to cut off his throws from third across the diamond and relay them onto the first baseman. But he was having difficulty with his shoulder when he was taking ground balls at third base, preparing for the possibility of playing that position in the World Series. Sinking fast in right center and in for a hit, and on the wet turf it scoots past Eisenreich to the wall. Henderson is in, Devon White is in, and Molitor has a triple. Which ought to diffuse any controversy about the decision rather quickly.
I think Cito Gaston is hopeful that Paul Molitor can drive in more than he can let in. And so far on that side of the ledger, it's 2-0. Not only the Blue Jays, but the move to put Molitor in the ball game. Watch how that ball just scoots right by Jim Eisenreich. And Molitor with the triple. He had 5 during the regular season.
2-0 Blue Jays, and Molitor is at third with nobody out. And the 4th batter of the inning is Joe Carter, the right fielder. Joe is 2 for 7 through the first 2 games with a homer and 3 knocked in. Strike 1. The infield is back for Philadelphia. It should be deep enough to get Molitor in. Eisenreich the catch, and Molitor trots in from third to make it 3-0. A sacrifice fly for Joe Carter, and that's his 4th RBI of the World Series.
I think another thing that factored into Cito Gaston's reasoning of starting Molitor tonight against the left-hander was that Molitor, a .363 hitter against left-handed pitching this year, that was second in the major leagues to Rich Amaral of the Seattle Mariners.
Now Roberto Alomar, who looked at ball 1. He's batting 5th tonight. He's been in a different position in the starting lineup in all 3 games. 3rd, 6th, and now 5th. He had a smash down to 3rd, but right at Dave Hollins for the 2nd out of the inning.
That's why they call 3rd the reaction position. Especially when you play in close, watching for the bunt, the ball gets on top of you in a hurry.
Now Tony Fernandez, 2 for 6 in his first World Series. Well, Jim Gray asked a number of the participants about the effects or possible effects of the delay, and just about everybody shrugged it off. But you wonder if the waiting might have affected Danny Jackson as he prepared for the first. Eisenreich, a nice running catch on the warning track to end the inning. 3 runs for the Blue Jays in the first after a half-inning. Toronto 3 in Philadelphia coming up.
Pretty easy to see who my daughter takes after.
I've got her funny laugh.
And my talent for raising perfect kids.
Fortunately for those perfect kids, I have your energy.
Well, I did get you started on breakfast with grape nuts.
Yeah, she's right. There's all this energy right there in the bowl.
What's here on the box? Fat-free, natural energy source. But I told her you have to try it yourself to understand it.
After a few days, I realized with a good breakfast, I have all the stamina in the morning. And I like the taste.
My grandkids are perfect.
Good. You want them?
Post Grape Nut cereal helps keep you going strong all morning long.
Ohio, Texas, parts from 174 suppliers in 32 states. They all come together right here in Georgetown, Kentucky, in the Toyota Camry. Built by Americans at a plant recently given the J.D. Power & Associates Gold Plant Quality Award. With this kind of craftsmanship, all the pieces fit together beautifully. The 1994 Toyota Camry.
After a while, it became a little too much to bear. So I headed to True Value and asked if there was anything I could do. Bob told me there was and gave me some very detailed instructions. I mean, you get used to the roller coaster, but the dripping faucet was really getting on my nerves.
For your free plumbing repair tips booklet, visit your local participating True Value.
Racism and basketball. Do new recruitment rules discriminate against inner-city kids? This college president doesn't think so.
Why is it that our compassion only goes out for those young people who are 6'9" and have a soft jump shot?
Them's fighting words to many college coaches. Eye on America investigates tomorrow on the CBS Evening News.
Jim Fragosi's Phillies trail 3-0 as they come up for the first time tonight with Lenny Dykstra leading off in center field. Batting second, the second baseman Mariano Duncan. John Kruk is the first baseman batting third. The cleanup hitter, third baseman Dave Hollins. Batting fifth and doing the catching, Darren Dalton. The right fielder Jim Eisenreich hits sixth. Pete Incaviglia, the left fielder, hitting seventh. Kevin Stocker is the shortstop batting eighth, and the pitcher Danny Jackson hits ninth.
The defense for Toronto, Ricky Henderson playing in left field, Devon White the center fielder, and Joe Carter in right. Ed Sprague at third base, Tony Fernandez at shortstop, Roberto Alomar the second baseman, and Paul Molitor at first base, with Pat Borders behind the plate and Pat Hinkin on the mound. 19-9 this year. That was tied for second in wins in the American League. Here's a key point tonight. Left-handed batters collectively hit .285 against Hinkin this year, and the Phillies have 6 of them with which to deal tonight.
The Toronto bullpen wants to watch Pat Hentgen's first ever World Series start, and as a result of the rain, they had to come out and clean off the windows. That's Mark Eichhorn doing the housekeeping.
Looks like 7th Avenue and 36th Street in New York City.
Lenny Dykstra leads off. 3-0 Toronto as Philadelphia bats in the first. Hentgen's first pitch high for ball 1. Paul Molitor at first base. At the belt. Hentgen features a high fastball generally, a curveball and a changeup. And pitching coach Galen Cisco says he needs to get the changeup and the curveball over. He missed with the breaking ball. 2 balls and a strike on Dykstra. Pat Hentgen, just 24 years old, from Fraser, Michigan. Those are the numbers about which Tim was speaking. Left-handed batters. .285 against Hentgen this year. Big rip by Dykstra, 2-2. Hentgen was knocked around in his only start in the league championship series against Chicago. He allowed 6 runs on 9 hits in 3 innings. And there was some concern on the Blue Jays side about his lack of velocity late in the regular season and in that playoff start against Chicago. But Hentgen has had 11 days off prior to tonight's start. And he believes that the velocity will return with the time off. He's already had 1 fastball, registered 91 on our gun, and seemed to have plenty on that one for strike 3.
Not often you get Lenny Dykstra leading off a ball game up and away, and Hentgen blew that ball by him. So he overmatched Len Dykstra, a guy that's tough to overmatch, 2 times, swinging and missing.
Now Mariano Duncan, who's been an offensive standout in the first 2 games for Philadelphia with 4 hits. He looked at strike 1. Jim Fregosi says now it's a best-of-5 series and we have 3 games at home. That is certainly an accurate read on the status of this series. He was happy to escape Toronto with a split of the first 2 games. Duncan quickly in the hole, 0-2. And he laid off the breaking ball outside. In the dirt again, Duncan laid off it. And he asked Mark Johnson to take a look at the ball. Hentgen started the year as the number 5 starter out of spring training, and as a result he didn't pitch very much in the first month of the season with all the off days built in. Saw his first action of the season out of the bullpen. Pitched twice in relief before moving into the starting rotation. And what a pleasant surprise he was for Toronto, winning 19 games. He told his father, Pat Sr., leaving spring training, that he'd be happy with a .500 record and an ERA of below 4 in his first full major league season, because that is generally considered a pretty good year by a 5th starter. He did much better than that. The 2-2 fastball fouled straight back. And of course they needed that kind of a performance from Pat Hentgen, Tim, because for much of the year Jack Morris was a big disappointment, and Dave Stewart struggled after being injured in spring training.
And they lost David Cone to free agency. Cone signing with the Kansas City Royals.
Base hit.
Blue Jays also lost Jimmy Key to the Yankees. Good hitting by Duncan right there. He went out and got a breaking ball off the ground. And the Phillies had their first hit. And that's what the Phillies want to do, get the crowd back into the game.
Duncan with his 5th hit of the series. Which ties him for the series high with the man at the plate, John Kruk, who went 5 for 9 in the 2 games at Skydome. Base hit past Molitor. Duncan on his way to third. Carter overran the ball, and Kruk moves into second. Second and third with 1 out for Philadelphia. And when Paul Molitor was asked before the game tonight about playing first base, he said the toughest situation is when holding runners on with a left-handed hitter at the plate.
You could see he was set. Would John Olerud have gotten to this ball? Possibly, because he's a left-handed thrower. The glove would be on the right hand. But Molitor has to dive for the ball. And again, we go back to that. Will Paul Molitor drive in more runs than he'll let in tonight? Now, I want to add that that was a very difficult play, and even a left-handed throwing first baseman would have had a tough time with that ball.
It's a single for Kruk, and charge Joe Carter, the right fielder, with the game's first error, allowing Kruk to move to second. So 2 men in scoring position. The tying run at the plate in the bottom of the first. Dave Hollins, the batter. And the switch-hitting third baseman looked at ball 1 low. He's 2 for 8 through the first 2 ball games with 1 RBI. The Blue Jays lead 3-0. Foul tipped into the mid of Borders. A ball and a strike on Hollins. Duncan, the runner at third. He singled with 1 out. And took third on the single by John Kruk, who moved to second on the error by Carter. A pop-up, straight back and out of play. No chance for Borders. Henkin, a slow starter over the course of the regular season. His ERA in the first 3 innings over 5 and under 3 thereafter.
That's unusual, because usually the first time a pitcher faces a batting order, he should have the edge.
The 1-2 to Hollins. Strike 3. He tied him up with the high inside fastball for the second out of the inning. Both have come via the strikeout.
See, often it is not necessarily the pitch, it's how you got there, and he got there with breaking balls and now blows the fastball by Hollins up and in. That's where the Blue Jays want to finish Hollins off. Doesn't mean that they have to stay there all the time, but that's where they want to finish him off. A good pitch by Henkin.
Now Darren Dalton, 2 for 9 in the series. Want to know the count on Dalton. Three 0 Blue Jays in the bottom of the first. The Phillies threatening with runners at second and third and 2 outs. Strike 1-1. Jim Eisenreich hoping for a chance to bat here in the first inning. Dalton has been the Phillies' leading hitter versus right-handed pitchers in the postseason. 1-2.
I think he's throwing harder than the Phillies expected. Lenny Dykstra striking out, waving at 2 pitches. Hollins striking out, and now Dalton.
The 1-2. Breaking ball low and in. Henkin trying to battle out of the first inning jam. And he's gone full with Dalton. who drove in 105 runs during the regular season. And many of the fans on their feet. The payoff pitch. He struck him out with the high fastball. 3 strikeouts in the first for Henkin. After 1, 3-0 Toronto.
Toyota proudly presents All-Around Champions. When Derek May steps up to the plate, he usually delivers the big hit. When he's playing ball with physically challenged youngsters, he becomes the biggest hit of all. Although he's been in the majors only a few years, the love Derek shows these kids has made him a veteran when it comes to giving a helping hand. Toyota is pleased to salute all-around champion Derek May by contributing $1,000 to United Cerebral Palsy of Greater Chicago.
It's been a benchmark of quality in America for over 25 years, but it isn't reserved for the privileged few. It has air conditioning, power windows and door locks, AM/FM cassette with 4 speakers, and much more. But it isn't an expensive luxury car. It's the Toyota Corolla Silver Anniversary Extra Value Package with savings of up to $700. The Toyota Corolla. You can't buy a more impressive car for less.
Day 3, fresh flowers. You can't help but notice all the fresh flowers aboard this Royal Caribbean ship. Someone's always scrubbing or polishing something. Our waiter Emilio told us the sheets are washed in soft water in case you've been out in the sun too long. Our ship sails south. I head north, upstairs to the health spa.
You've got some Royal Caribbean coming.
Hold on. I don't know. Just overnight the package.
Yeah, sure. Overnighted.
Might as well overnight it.
Overnight this.
Overnight that.
Overnight.
Sometimes overnight is overkill. So kick the habit with priority mail from the Postal Service. It's not overnight, but it's fast delivery, special handling, and 2 pounds is only $2.90.
Morning. Thanks.
When overnight is overdoing it, remember, we deliver for you. Call and we'll start today.
October 27th. Head south with Glenn Fry and Aries Spears. South of Sunset.
Paul Molitor is in the lineup tonight. John Olerud is not. Pat O'Brien spoke with the 2 of them.
Yeah, you know, it's been a while since I've been out in the field. It's been over a month, so it'll be a little strange being back out there with the leather, but hopefully I won't bring the ejecto glove with me and I can hold on to the ball over there.
Well, I think naturally you're disappointed just because you want to be in all the ball games you can. But, you know, I think we're got kind of a unique situation here. No DH at the National League ballpark, so somebody's going to have to sit down, and no matter who it is, they're going to be disappointed. So
well, they call it a team sport, I guess.
Yeah.
Ed Sprague, the leadoff hitter. 1 for 8 in the first 2 games, and of course there was much speculation leading up to tonight's game that Sprague would take a seat and Molitor would play third. Out of play, 2 balls and 1 strike. The Blue Jays batting in the second with a 3-0 lead. They have Sprague, Borders, and Henkin. The bottom third of the order coming up against Danny Jackson, who allowed the first 3 Blue Jays to reach in the first inning. All 3 of them scored. Then he retired 3 in a row.
We mentioned earlier Jackson's postseason success. It's his 3rd World Series team with which he has started.
Bounce to short to Kevin Stocker. 1 out.
Jackson started with the 85 Royals and the 90 Reds, and now this year for the Phillies, only 2 other pitchers have started World Series games with 3 different teams. Bullet Joe Bush did it. Gotta like that, Bullet Joe Bush. That means he threw hard. Jack Morris did it most recently for the Blue Jays last year.
Bullet Joe Bush, for the historians in the audience, played for the 1913 Athletics, the 1918 Red Sox, the last Red Sox World Championship team, and the 1922 Yankees. Jack Morris, of course, in '84 for the Tigers, '91 for the Twins, and last year with the Jays. And you had a look at
Jack Morse, who hopes to be pitching for somebody next year. It probably will not be the Blue Jays. They have a buyout option of his contract. If they bring him back, they'd have to pay him $5 million, and that's highly unlikely. Pat Borders the hitter. 2-1 the count. Borders 2 for 8 in the first 2 games at Skydome. And there's speculation Borders won't be back, that he might be traded to make room for the highly touted catching prospect Carlos Delgado, who drove in 100 runs at AA Knoxville this year. Some of the members of the Toronto media were questioning the timing of Pat Gillick's statement a couple of days ago. He's the Toronto GM. On the ground is second. Duncan throws him out. Pat said probably 25% of the roster would not be back next year. And the timing of that statement was questioned. Why would he bring that up, as the members of this year's team are heading into the World Series?
We talked about it briefly on Sunday night. As far as Borders is concerned, I think the Blue Jays have to maintain a catcher with experience for the pitchers of the Blue Jays. Delgado, I think everybody agrees, he's ready to hit in the big leagues, but not ready to catch in the major leagues.
First major league at bat for Pat Henkin. As we mentioned earlier, he has hit 3 times in spring training without getting a hit. First time that he has batted in a game that really mattered for Pat since 1986, when he was at high school in Fraser, Michigan. And he was also a shortstop back then. Hit .399 as a high school player, and hits a little lob that will be handled by Duncan. 1-2-3 go the Jays in the second. After an inning and a half, 3-0 Toronto.
From the instant you begin until you're over the top, there are no words to describe it. But if you're lucky enough to try it, then you'll know what the others know. The Toyota 4x4. It's the closest thing to owning the mountain. Toyota trucks, you just gotta love them.
There are so many people trying to figure so many ways to rip you off now that it's very hard by yourself to counter all these things.
Citibank called one night at 7 o'clock. Apparently someone had bought 9 tickets to Vegas, gambled, and invited 9 of their best friends.
That's why, you know, having somebody watch your back is good.
Citibank realized that I'd not made those charges, and it got taken care of.
It just makes you feel like you have an ally out there.
Just a few of the many people who rely on the security of not just Visa, Citibank Visa.
What are you thinking about out here?
I don't know. I just don't think this perm looks natural.
Perm? You think you've got problems? Take a look at these split ends.
Men don't really talk about their hair. They just want it clean. Prel cleans gently without a lot of fancy ingredients. So till guys want more than nice, clean hair.
That's it. I'm bringing in Fisher. He's got those nice highlights.
There's Prel. We're just talking clean.
You're unbelievable. You're so unbelievable. You're unbelievable. You're unbelievable.
A thank you message from Major League Baseball.
Get your game cards ready and stay tuned for the Budweiser World Series Classic Play at the end of the 5th inning. You could win $100,000.
Sean McDonough with Tim McCarver, Jim Gray and Pat O'Brien at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. Game 3 of the World Series. The series tied at 1 win apiece. The Blue Jays lead tonight 3-0. As Philadelphia bats in the second against Pat Henkin. Jim Eisenreich looked at ball 1 inside. He's 2 for 9, but one of those hits the big 3-run homer that put the finishing touches on the 5-run third against Dave Stewart in game 2. Henkin worked out of a jam in the first inning. When the Phillies got runners at second and third with one out, he struck out Hollins and Dalton to end the inning. Fernandez gets Eisenreich by a running step. And as you saw a moment ago in the shot of Pat Henkin, it is still raining here. Very light rain is falling at Veterans Stadium. Pete Incaviglia in there tonight against the right-handed starter. Getting his second start in the series. He started game 2 against Dave Stewart. Bill Thompson struggled down the stretch and in the postseason with the bat. So Incaviglia gets the call against right-handed pitching.
Pete Incaviglia with 24 home runs, 89 RBIs, and only 368 at-bats. Only 2 other players were that productive in home runs and RBIs and that few of at-bats. Ted Williams in 1950 and Mike Schmidt in 1981. And it was Mike Schmidt, a great third baseman of the Phillies, 548 lifetime home runs, who threw out the first pitch tonight.
Kevin Stocker, the batter, following the strikeout of Incaviglia, the 4th K already for Henkin. Stocker is 2 for 6. He turned the bunt and had to go spinning out of the way as Henkin missed inside with a fastball.
Normally you wouldn't bunt with 2 out and nobody on, but in this case, if Stocker can get on, it clears the pitcher, and Dykstra can lead off the 3rd inning.
Bounced foul. Tim mentioned that Mike Schmidt threw out the first pitch. And there's a look back at that moment. Philadelphia native Darrell Hall sang the American national anthem, and Dan Hill the Canadian national anthem. Mike Schmidt, 3-time MVP in the National League, 548 career homers, and one of 4 numbers retired by the Philadelphia Phillies. Robin Roberts, Rich Ashburn, and Steve Carlton the others. Henkin's 1-1 to Stocker is low and in.
Wait a minute, you said Dan Hill and Darrell Hall singing the national anthems, and this was supposed to be a night when no DH was used. Dan Hill, Darrell Hall. There he is right there. There is a DH in the stadium.
One of 2 DHs used tonight. Alomar throws him out. Henkin has a 1-2-3 inning. After 2, 3-0 Toronto.
Cellular One has set up state-of-the-art cellular service that reaches clear across America. Beautiful, isn't it?
Besides being an educator, Jim Elkins is a collector of antiques and an occasional Montana trout. Having owned a dozen Toyota cars, Jim naturally made the T100 his first Toyota truck. Your typical big truck owner? No. But then the T100 is not your typical truck. Observe the Detroit Free Press. The cabin reminds one of the Toyota Camry in equipment and comfort. The Toyota T100 puts you in a whole new class.
Start saving $300 a month when you're 23, and you could retire a millionaire. Start at 30, and you might reach 600,000. At 40, about 200,000. Which is why you need Prudential's Financial Assessment Program. A personalized computer analysis of where you are, where you want to go, and how we can help. Because nobody plans to fail. They just fail to plan. Call Prudential Insurance now.
Bob, 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 Bob is back. Bob, 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 Bob is back. Bob is back. Bobby loves on Friday night with Jerry Burns and Betty White. Bob is back, back, back on CBS.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 3 of the 1993 World Series is brought to you by Lexus Luxury Automobiles. The American Express card, don't leave home without it. The Prudential, peace of mind, it comes with every piece of the rock. And by Prell, we're just talking clean.
Among those in attendance tonight, Phillies manager Jim Fragosi's parents. That's Archie in the Phillies jacket. And Jim's mother, Margaret, in the background. As we mentioned during Game 2, Archie at age 80 is still the third base coach for Galley's Bakery softball team in South San Francisco, and is one of the all-time great second guessers of managers, according to his son Jim. For many years, Archie Fragosi was a volunteer firefighter in South San Francisco, and Jim Fragosi said when he was a young boy, the horns would go off signaling a fire. He'd race to the car and hide in the back seat so that he could go along to the fires with his dad, who worked at a delicatessen in South San Francisco. These days, Jim Fragosi is living in a hotel right across the street from Veterans Stadium. He lived in a hotel the entire year. That hotel now owned in part by Ron Jaworski, the former Eagle quarterback. Ricky Henderson, the batter, 2-1 in the count, and now 2-2. Ricky singled leading off the ball game and scored the first of the 3 Toronto runs in the first inning. The Blue Jays batting in the third, the top of the order against Danny Jackson, and it's 3-0 Toronto. Anderson, White, and Molitor coming up. Just inside. And on the hands and pulled foul. Henderson struggles in the postseason, as we mentioned, prompted some in the Toronto media to say he should be benched, and others to suggest that perhaps he's coming toward the end of his career at age 34.
I think that's premature in Henderson's case. I mean, he had a terrific first half of the year for the Athletics.
In the air and right, Eisenreich at the wall makes the catch right in front of the 371 mark. Henderson maintains that his struggles are a product of his injury, particularly the one to his right hand. His left hand has also been bothering him. He says it's tough to generate much power or bat speed with his hand as sore as it is as the result of being hit by a pitch back in late August. Devon White looked at strike one. He walked and scored on the Molitor triple in the first. Up and in.
Devon White with a .352 average in postseason play. Paul Molitor .347, and Roberto Alomar at .340. Can extend that. The top 5, 3 Blue Jays.
A pop-up in the direction of Duncan. John Olerud cast in the unfamiliar role as spectator tonight. Paul Molitor, triple to the wall and right, a ball that skipped by Eisenreich on the wet outfield turf to drive in 2 runs off Danny Jackson in the first. Molitor scored the 3rd run, and Jackson has retired 8 in a row since the triple by Molitor. That's well hit to left. Incaviglia watches it go. Home run, Paul Molitor. So playing first base agrees with Molitor. A 2-run triple in the first and a line solo home run here in the third.
Gene Tennis, the hitting instructor of the Blue Jays, says that Molitor's hips explode on the ball. And you could see right there, Paul Wainer, Little Poison, used to say you have to belly button the ball. And did Molitor ever belly button that inside slider from Danny Jackson? Wow.
4-0 Toronto. That's just the second postseason home run allowed by Danny Jackson. The other one was hit by Jose Canseco in Game 2 of the 1990 World Series. The 1-1 to Carter. Bounced past Jackson and through the middle, a base hit. So Carter, who had a sacrifice fly in the first, is aboard with a 2-out single here in the third.
So Joe Carter joins the hit parade. That is hit number 4 for the Blue Jays. And Paul Molitor, by the way, has half of the cycle, the 2 toughest hits to get in the cycle, the triple and the home run. And he should get up at least another 2 times, possibly 3.
Alomar fouled out of play, straight back. Alomar, one of 3 switch hitting starters for the Blue Jays, and all 3 of them hit better from the left side. White, Alomar, and Fernandez batting from their weaker side tonight. One and one on Roberto, who wished his dad a happy birthday in his chat with Jim Gray. Roberto said he didn't want his parents to attend the World Series games because it makes him nervous. They're watching from Puerto Rico. Roberto got off to a slow start, however, in the League Championship Series. Started out 0 for 8. So he put out the call for his parents, paid to fly them from Puerto Rico to Chicago. Wound up going 6 for 11. And perhaps they're listening to those gentlemen on the CBS Hispanic Radio Network. Carter runs, and Alomar sent one back to the screen again. Still 1-2 on Roberto.
Carter had 8 stolen bases during the season, and I think Cito Gaston relaying the signs to Nick Leyva, the third base coach, and because it's a good running situation. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs, especially with a big lead.
Carter runs again. Alomar fouled one off the foot of Dalton.
The reason that 0-2 and 1-2 counts are good to run on, especially with 2 outs and you have a lead, is that a pitcher has a tendency to waste a pitch in a situation like that, to throw the slider down and in, and the catcher often has to throw from a short hop. Very difficult to handle.
And Jackson throws over this time. Four 4-0 Toronto, and the Blue Jays are batting in the third with Carter at first and 2 outs. They scored a run in the inning on the home run by Molitor. Carter was not running on that 1-2 pitch, and it's 2-2 on Alomar. Carter is not running. Alomar, base hit through the hole on the left side. Carter to second. So all of this has happened with 2 outs for the Blue Jays. The home run by Molitor, and now back-to-back singles by Carter and Alomar.
Everything happened with no outs in the first and with 2 outs here.
And Johnny Padres goes to the mound. The 61-year-old pitching coach involved in the World Series for the first time since 1963. Back in 1955, he was the MVP of the World Series, leading Brooklyn to its only World Championship.
Beat Brooklyn 2-0 in Game 7. Jim Fregosi saying before the game that he's received a lot of nice letters from a lot of people in baseball. Buzzy Bavesi, the general managers of the Dodgers and Angels and Padres, sent him a letter talking about Padres. That was the San Diego Padres as opposed to Johnny Padres. He said he was the money pitcher of his era. That the Dodgers had a lot of great pitchers. Sandy Koufax, Don Newcomb, Don Drysdale. But the guy to give the ball to when the show was on the line was that left-hander right there, Johnny Padres.
He shut out the Yankees in Game 7 of the '55 World Series. 2-0. The count on Tony Fernandez, who flied to right back in the first, ending the inning. Toronto has a 4-0 lead, and they're threatening to build on it with first and second and 2 outs. Chopped slowly to the right side. A tough play. Kroc has no play. Then thought about a throw to third as Carter had rounded the bag. The bases are loaded on an infield hit by Tony Fernandez.
Most left-handers who put a lot on the ball fall over toward the third baseline before they can recover to cover first. And Jackson, with that leg kick of his, he's very low to the ground when he releases the ball. As a matter of fact, often the soft part of the forearm, the left forearm, will come around to hit the right shin, and for that reason he has a sponge on his right shin.
Jackson from the windup with the bases loaded, and his first pitch to Ed Sprague was a ball.
Jackson had some tingling in his fingers back in 1988, and the reason was he was hitting that left forearm on his shin, and since that time he has been wearing that sponge.
Bobby Thigpen is warming up in the Philadelphia bullpen. The 1-1. Fouled straight back. Jackson has given up 4 straight hits. The home run by Molitor, the 2 outs got it started, and 3 straight singles to Carter, Alomar, and Fernandez. And Jackson is scheduled to lead off the next inning for Philadelphia. So there is the possibility of a very early pitching change for the Phillies. We're in the third. 4-0 Blue Jays. Sprague down the line and foul. Sprague is still in search of his first hit against left-handed pitching in this postseason. The 1-2. Bounced to just about the same spot. Certainly seems as though the rain delay and the early scoring by Toronto has combined to take the crowd out of the ballgame. Very close.
Yeah, but when a pitcher is all over the place, you don't get a pitch like that, and as you can see, that ball clearly inside. If you're wild, an umpire is less apt to give you the close pitches.
He struck him out. The Blue Jays get 1 and strand 3, and we'll return to Veterans Stadium after this message and a word from your local station.
Can you be sure the food you eat is safe? We took a hidden camera inside a slaughterhouse.
And you got this guy coming along with a hose, splattering up stuff off the floor.
Because of our investigation, the USDA shut this plant down until their meat was safe again. The CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Connie Chung, team to cover your world.
John Ritter and Marky Post are moving back home.
I thought everyone around here was supposed to be happy.
They were when I left.
Maybe you should leave again.
Hearts of Fire returns October 27th. This is CBS.
Get a rugged Mazda Navajo, an all-new Mazda truck, or a Mazda MPV. All with a basic warranty unsurpassed in their class. And if you're in the mood for value, the time to see your Mazda dealer is now. We make the exceptional affordable. Mazda. It just feels right.
Ben Franklin, please. It's his agent. Benji, baby. Of course I got your message. I can't afford to miss messages, especially yours. You're my #1 client, Ben. George, sit. Yeah, that's why I have answer call here at the house, Ben. Yeah, I get my messages through the phone. It even takes them while I'm on the phone. You should get answer call, too. Trust me, Ben. Who got your picture on the $100 bill? George, love you.
Call 1-800-426-2017 and save on the service connection.
The 94 Ford F-150 is now at your Quality Plus Ford dealer.
No other truck is built for tough.
Not only is the F-150 America's tough full-size truck, now it's America's safe truck, too, with the driver's side airbag standard. Plus, every 94 F-150 has Preferred Care, the 24-hour roadside assistance program. Now save $1,200 on the #1 selling Ford F-150. See the Truck Authority, your Quality Plus Ford dealer today.
You better hit the ground running in a new Ford truck. Hey, hey.
Madonna takes on the World Series on the Channel 10 News after the game.
The Toronto Blue Jays lead 4-0 as Philadelphia gets ready to bat in the third against Pat Henkin. Danny Jackson, the pitcher, will hit for himself to lead off the inning, and then Lenny Dykstra and Mariano Duncan. Only one hit in the postseason for Danny Jackson, but as you may recall, it drove in the game-winning run in Game 4 of the NLCS this year against Atlanta. Henkin's first pitch of the inning, a strike. Pat has retired 5 in a row.
John, you and I were talking between innings about whether Jim Fregosi should use a pinch hitter right here. I would use a pinch hitter. I think being 4 runs down, things shift to the offense. You've got to score runs, and first in baseball are very important, and you get the first man on. But Jim Fregosi has opted to stick with Danny Jackson one more time through the lineup.
Pop up. It will be close. Molitor watches it drop a couple of rows deep. Well, Jim Fregosi's feeling is probably that his middle relief, long relief, has been a weakness of his team all year. It's only the third inning, and he does have the highest scoring team in the National League, capable of putting up runs in bunches. He probably just wants to stay away from that middle relief if he can.
Phillies with 877 runs scored, the most in the National League. How many runs are too much? That I think is the thing. As Charlie Williams says, Danny Jackson went around. That's 5 strikeouts for Pat Henkin.
And he only averaged 5 strikeouts per 9 innings during the regular season. So any worries about Henkin on the part of Blue Jay fans might be put to rest here with his strong performance through the first 3 innings. Lenny Dykstra started the Philadelphia first by striking out swinging. The ball 1 on Dykstra. And ball 2 high. Dykstra, with a home run in this World Series, now has 7 career postseason home runs, tying him with Jose Canseco, Kirk Gibson, and Dave Henderson for most among active players. The all-time postseason home run leaders are Mickey Mantle and Reggie Jackson with 18 apiece. Of course, Mickey Mantle got all of his home runs in World Series play. He did not have the benefit of League Championship Series when he played. The 3-1 on the ground down to Molitor. And he handles his first chance cleanly. There's the Spectrum right across the street, the home of the Philadelphia 76ers and Flyers and the wings of the Major Indoor Lacrosse League. We mentioned earlier that Madonna is performing there tonight before a sellout crowd of about 15,000. So we have almost 80,000 people within a couple of 100 yards. And at 8:50 she took the stage, and that's about what you'd expect to see from Madonna.
Coming on stage, she was saying, ain't got time to take a fast train. It's kind of the Phillies story right here. They better take a fast train. They trail 4-0.
Of course, the city officials here in Philadelphia were encouraging people to take the train and the bus, any other form of public transportation here tonight to help eliminate what might be a colossal traffic jam. Duncan with a very high fly, handled by White, and the Phillies go in order again. Henkin has retired 8 in a row after 3. 4-0 Toronto.
Over 2 million vacationers visited historic Philadelphia last year. Not one of them, however, was a Lexus engineer. Why? Let's just say they were busy. The 1994 Lexus ES, improved, revised, refined. In a word, new.
Hunger in the United States is at a record level. The best estimates are that there's 30 million people that are hungry in this country. There are many, many infants and young children who suffer from malnutrition. There's just no excuse for that kind of tragedy. What Share Strength does is we get the resources to communities so that they can feed more people more effectively. It's going to take a lot to solve hunger in this country.
We're grateful for American Express card members' support in helping to provide a meal every time they use the card.
Now till December 31st, use the American Express card to help feed millions of people.
The charge against hunger is a battle that we can win.
This is hydroplaning in less than an inch of water, and they're being pulled by Goodyear all-season AquaTread radials. AquaTread's deep groove design channels water away as you drive for outstanding traction. Hydroplaning, AquaTreading. Think about it.
This game summary is sponsored by AT&T.
And for those of you just joining us, this ball game was delayed at the start 1 hour and 12 minutes by rain. The Blue Jays wasted no time in getting on the board once we got underway with 3 in the first, highlighted by a 2-run triple by Paul Molitor. Molitor homered in the third. It's 4-0 Jays as they bat in the fourth against Danny Jackson. Pat Borders bounced to second his first time up. Had Henkin on deck. And then the top of the order and Ricky Henderson. Jackson has surrendered 6 hits through 3 innings. The ball and 2 strikes. Breaking ball went around the outside of the plate. 2-2 on Borders. Danny Jackson was at center stage of the Phillies celebration after they clinched the NLCS in Game 6 against Atlanta. He performed his pump-up routine in the middle of the field, but he ripped his shirt off and posed like Hans and Franz. But his teammates were imploring him to do that. His wife Jody was appalled that he did it. Very high to medium depth left field in Cavilla. Of course, Jackson's antics designed to entertain the fans, and that is certainly the game plan of the Philly Fanatic. In honor of the Fanatic, we have given him his own camera, the Fanatic Cam, and our cameraman Kim Elston was ready for the abuse from the Fanatic tonight. Joe Carter said the reason he was looking forward to the series coming back to Philadelphia was so that he could see the Fanatic again. That would make him a fanatic, I guess.
Joe seeing the Fanatic when he spent that year in San Diego. Most of Carter's years, however, have been spent in the American League. You know what I'd do with Pat Hinkin hitting? Let him take. Make Danny Jackson throw the ball over the plate 3 times.
Hinkin swings and bounces one to short. Stalker. 2 down.
We suggested that to Cito Gaston before the game, and Cito said, not a bad idea. An 0-2 take sign. No balls, 2 strikes, flash your take.
Well, obviously, Cito believes, as do many, that the American League team is at a great disadvantage in this situation. They built their team based on playing with the DH all year. And now in the World Series in the National League Park, the DH is not employed. So you have to remove somebody like Olerud, who's been a huge part of the team's success to get them to the World Series.
It's almost as unfair for the National League team, however, because they've built their bench around National League style of play, and they go up there and have to use a designated hitter like Ricky Jordan. He's not used to it. He did have a couple of hits. Probably a little bit more disadvantageous for the American League club, but not much.
As Jim Fregosi says, we have to play 4 games in this series under their rules, meaning the American League rules, while the Blue Jays only have to play 3 without the DH. But let's hope whoever the new commissioner is, perhaps years from now, that he or she will settle this issue once and for all.
You're saying the commissioner was not going to be chosen years from now?
Well, they said
have
it would be
taken
a couple of months, and it's been more than a year, and there's no evidence to suggest that we're going to see one anytime soon. Fly ball to left. In Cavilla near the line, makes the catch in fair territory.
You might be right.
On to the bottom of the 4th, 4-0 Blue Jays.
I don't say this to many people, but the job we do is the most important job I can think of.
Okay, guys, listen up.
I mean, there's no such thing as a B+ mechanic on this airline.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Even the most junior mechanic can keep an airplane in this hangar if there's a hint of a problem. You might think a job like this would become routine, but every now and then, I just take a walk through the terminal, and right there, you see what's important.
J.C. Penney would like you to meet some of the smartest men in America. They're not just scientists or scholars. They're men who know about value. These are the men of Stafford. From the wool and wool blend suits to the all-cotton shirts and pure silk ties, the Stafford collection gives these men a very smart look at a very smart price, which is why the smartest men in America are wearing Stafford, exclusively at...
Over 1.5 million vacationers toured the canals of Venice last year. Not one of them, however, was a Lexus engineer. Why? Let's just say they were busy. The 1994 Lexus ES, improved, revised, refined, in a word, new.
Broncos, Cherokees, Pathfinders, any pickup or 4x4, on-road or off. Introducing the tough new LTX Light Truck Series from Michelin.
Love this place! It's the new Burger King Everyday Value Menu. Your favorite Burger King foods at new lower everyday prices. Like flame-broiled burgers for only 99 cents. The new Burger King Everyday Value Menu.
Have it your way.
Sunday on CBS, the Cardinals face Steve Young and the Niners. Or the Falcons battle the Saints. Whoop, there it is. I'm a big fan.
Toronto leads 4-0 as the Phillies come up in the bottom of the fourth. Sean McDonough along with Tim McCarver, and Pat Henkin has been very impressive to this point.
I think the one thing that has had to impress the Phillies is how hard he's been throwing. I mean, he has been blowing balls by good fastball hitters. The key pitch in the game, the strikeout of Dalton in the first inning.
With runners at second and third and 2 outs. John Kruk, the last Philly to reach when he singled to right, took second on a Carter error in the first. That's down the line. It took a funny hop and got by Molitor, then hit the stands where they jut out, and John Kruk is in a second with a leadoff double.
Kruk testing Molitor, but watch how the ball comes up on Molitor. It wasn't as bad a hop from the replay as it was with the naked eye, but right there, the hop coming up, Molitor sliding over, it went over his glove, and Kruk leads off the fourth with a double for the Phillies.
His 7th hit of the World Series. He has 2 of the 3 Philadelphia hits tonight. Dave Holland struck out with runners at second and third and 1 out in the first inning. 1 of 5 strikeouts for Henkin. Holland swung through the fastball for strike 1.
Interesting to note that if a hitter stands far away from the plate, he likes the ball away from him. Look how far Dave Holland stands away from the plate. Pitchers try to pitch him inside, however. If you're on top of the plate, your hands have to be very quick, so you know you can get around on the fastball inside. If you're away from the plate, you'll like the ball away.
One and 2 the count. 4-0 Toronto in the bottom of the fourth. Game 3 of the World Series. The series tied at 1 win apiece. John Kruk at second with nobody out. Pat Henkin, who had a couple of chances to win his 20th in the late season, but failed to get it done. Here's 1-2, breaking ball that just missed, a little bit low and in. Holland's a much better hitter right-handed. Hit .330 from the right, only .237 from the left this year. The 2-2 up and away, and the count is full with Darren Dalton on deck. And here come the fans back into the ball game. The 3-2 pitch. Foul just below us.
Fans here in Philadelphia can certainly have an effect on the game. Just ask Bert Hooton. Back in Game 3, October 7th, 1977, Bert Hooton said that the fans in Philadelphia were the reason that he was so wild and had to be lifted. The Dodgers end up winning the game, but it was the fans that knocked Hooton out that night.
Ball 4. First walk thrown by Henkin. First and second and nobody out. Kruk, the runner at second. Hollins at first. And the batter is Darren Dalton, who struck out with runners at second and third, ending the first. Big swing and a foul to the backstop. When Darren Daulton first put on the Phillies jersey, guys like Mike Schmidt, Steve Carlton, Pete Rose were his teammates. That's how long he's been with Philadelphia. How long he waited to get to postseason. He skies it very high in shallow right center. Alomar, with the infield fly rule in effect, put it away for the first out of the inning. The Blue Jays were off and running with 3 runs in the first. Paul Molitor's triple drove in the first 2. And he scored on a sacrifice fly by Paul Molitor. Or by Joe Carter, rather. Then Molitor again. A home run with 2 outs and the bases empty in the third. His 3rd RBI. Molitor has scored twice tonight. And Cito Gaston out to give Henkin a little bit of a pep talk. And there is action in the Philadelphia bullpen. Ben Rivera is warming up.
It's a very unusual trip to the mound when you think about it. I mean, Hollins walks on a 3-2 pitch. You would think that Gaston would be more likely to go out to the mound after that than after an out. Nothing apparently is bothering Henkin. He doesn't appear to be injured or anything. But I agree with you, Sean. I think it was a pep talk, but why after an out?
Eisenreich, the batter. Ball 1 outside. Eisenreich bounced to short his first time up. Four nothing Blue Jays in the home half of the 4th. Eisenreich, a big hack. 1-1. John Kruk started the inning with a double. Then Hollins walked, but Henkin got Daulton for the 2nd time tonight in a big spot, this time on a pop-up to second. Close pitch called the ball. 2-1 on Eisenreich. We still have not seen Eisenreich's platoon partner, Wes Chamberlain, in this series. The 2-1. Well hit to left. Henderson on the run makes the catch. And the runners return. Kruk to second. And Hollins to first. Eisenreich hit it well to the opposite field. But Henderson didn't have far to run to get it. I would guess that Curt Schilling is not a very good poker player.
Not a good poker face, huh?
No. Pretty easy to tell what he's thinking about most of the time. He couldn't bear to watch the final outs of Game 2 and Mitch Williams took the mound. The memorable pictures of Schilling with the towel pulled over his head. That's been a familiar pose for Curt in the postseason. Pete Incaviglia, the batter. He looked at ball 1.
Phillies squandered one opportunity in the first inning to get at least one. They had runners on at second and third and one out and failed to score. And in this inning, first and second, nobody out. They need to score at least one run here. Make this a profitable half inning.
And Incaviglia did not have a good at bat against Henkin his first time up. He struck out swinging. 1-1 the count. This is Game 3. Games 4 and 5 will be here at the Vet. Tomorrow night we're on the air at 8 Eastern time with the first pitch at 8:12. Todd Stottlemyre will get the start for the Blue Jays and Tommy Green for Philadelphia. Each will be making his first appearance. Fly ball to center, not deep. Devon White makes the catch and Henkin gets out of another jam. We've played 4 in Philadelphia, 4-0 Toronto.
They say Mozart composed from midnight to 7 a.m. Hemingway was at his best before noon. Edison, inspired by the dark. At Compaq, we understand that ideas aren't governed by a clock. That's why we're standing by 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to answer your computing questions. Galileo, definitely a night person. The 24-hour helpline from Compaq.
This is the perfect time to try my new Polaroid Captiva. Smile!
Hey, where's the picture?
There's no picture?
Did you see the picture come out? How can that be a Polaroid camera if there's no picture?
It doesn't look like a Polaroid camera.
It's not a Polaroid camera.
Introducing the new Polaroid Captiva. It's sleek, it's stylish. Its pocket-sized pictures stay in a special compartment till you take them out, so you're free to shoot and shoot.
Maybe if you shake it.
Yeah, shake the camera. The new Polaroid Captiva. The pictures stay in till you take them out.
My dandruff's really bad. The itch drives me crazy. I'll try anything. The Denorex side feels different. It has a clean, tingling feeling. Nothing with Head & Shoulders.
Both Denorex and Head & Shoulders have effective dandruff medicine, but Denorex goes a step further with something extra that tingles to give your scalp a fresh, invigorating feeling.
That tingle is why I started using Denorex.
Try Denorex with conditioners, the serious dandruff shampoo.
No more flakes, no more itch. My dandruff's history.
Department stores may never be the same now that kids are discovering the Rookie League collection. It's Major League Kids clothes, built to stand up to the way kids play. The Rookie League collection, now playing at a department store near you.
A message from Major League Baseball.
A look back at 1969, Game 3.
A fastball hit high and deep to center field. Agee was pulled around the right, goes over with his feet, and watches it. He's got it!
Tommy Agee with a terrific catch and a ball hit by Elrod Hendricks. Runners at first and third and 2 outs. 4th inning. The Mets leading at the time 3-0. They went on to win the game 5-0 and upset the Orioles 4-1. The amazing Mets.
Tommy Agee, the hardest slider that I ever ran into. Twice he slid so hard he stuck in my shin guards. Twice, 2 different occasions.
Now, how do you extract somebody from one's shin guards?
Very difficult, believe me.
Very carefully. Devon White out on the bouncing ball to third. Here's Paul Molitor talking about his trigger mechanism.
And you know, you make adjustments as you get older, and for me, the less movement, the longer I can see the ball, the more selective I can be. It helps me to use the whole field also. I do have a slight trigger. You'll see that my hands get the bat moved a little bit backwards before I come forward, but generally the stride will be short and the hands will be pretty quiet, and for me, that when I can do that and stay in that framework, that's when I'm the most successful.
And Molitor is at the plate. That style has been very successful for him again tonight. He had a 2-run triple in the first and scored. He had a solo home run to left in the third. When a hitter talks about a trigger mechanism, to what is he referring?
Usually you have to bring the hands back to get power forward. And baseball players marvel at Molitor because he brings his hands back ever so slightly, but as we said earlier, he explodes the hips through the ball. It's almost like hitting without a trigger mechanism. You go back for power, and then you extend the arms. Obviously, you can't go back too far because the ball will be on top of you then if it's a fastball. He is short and quick. 2 of the elements of hitting is to wait and have quick hands, and he does it beautifully.
Pulled foul past third. 1-2 on Molitor. 1 out. 5th inning. 4-0 Blue Jays. Molitor credits some of his success at the major league level to Dennis Menke, who's now the Phillies batting coach. Paul Molitor only played 1 year of minor league baseball in the Brewers organization at Burlington, Iowa. Single-A ball, and Menke was his manager. Paul said that Menke worked with him on some of the hitting techniques we've been discussing that have led to Paul's tremendous success. Down to third, gloved nicely by Hollins. And Menke told a nice story about Paul Molitor, we'll tell you about in a moment. But first, Tim, let's analyze that swing.
Well, watch the hips explode through the ball, and watch how ever so slightly he takes the hands back. Very little trigger with the hands, and watch the hips explode. He throws the hips at the ball. Gene Tennis talking about a lot of people not realizing how big Molitor is. He doesn't look frail, but he looks thin. He has got a big frame and a big upper body. He is much stronger than a lot of people think.
Joe Carter sent it out of play, 1-1. Dennis Menke told the story of Paul Molitor when they were together that one year in the minors. Said Molitor had in his agreement coming out of college, he'd play 3 weeks at single A, then he was guaranteed promotion to the AAA club. Well, the single A club in Burlington got off to a good start. Paul said, I'd rather stay here and help this team win. And Burlington went on to the Midwest League Championship. Molitor was the league MVP, and he never saw AAA. He started the next year with the Brewers in the major leagues and has been a major leaguer ever since. Well hit down the left field line. Incaviglia running hard. Great catch. Malinke says, I'm a better defensive outfielder than I'm being given credit for. And he's on a mission to prove it. He's made a couple of terrific catches in the postseason. 1, 2, 3 go the Blue Jays in the 5th.
From Gillette comes a revolutionary form of antiperspirant protection. Gillette Clear Gel Antiperspirant. Because it's a clear, clean, powerful gel, it goes on smoothly with no white residue to form an invisible barrier of protection. All-day protection against both wetness and odor. Gillette Clear Gel Antiperspirant. One of the advanced deodorants and antiperspirants in the Gillette series.
They say good pitching beats good hitting any day. The Achieva Special Edition by Oldsmobile. Check out this slow curve. How about a backdoor slider? Here comes one all loaded up. Yeah, and here comes the money pitch. It's your call.
To help relieve her heartburn, Original Rolaids uses an aluminum salt. But his antacid is Tums, and Tums has calcium.
Something my body needs anyway. I like that.
Tums. When ashes turn to ashes.
Return to a place
Dust returns to dust.
where a legend was born and a new legend
Can never trust.
will soon begin. This is the last great adventure.
Had an idea. Run some Mustangs up to Montana.
Theirs was the last great ride.
Anybody hits this herd, be hanged.
Academy Award winners John Voight and Louis Gossett Jr., Emmy winner Barbara Hershey, William Peterson, Oliver Reed, and Rick Schroeder as Newt had an all-star cast.
I saw you gun a man in cold blood.
With Reese Witherspoon, Nia Peoples, and Dennis Haysbert. Ain't over yet, Ranger. Beginning Sunday, November 14th, return to Lonesome Dove.
Halfway through game 3, the Toronto Blue Jays lead 4-0. Pat Henkin scheduled to face Kevin Stocker, Danny Jackson, and Lenny Dykstra. Wes Chamberlain has moved in the on-deck circle to bat for Jackson as Stocker looked at ball 1. Kevin's 0 for 1 tonight. Bounced to second in the second. Henkin has worked nicely out of a couple of jams in the first and fourth innings. He worked 1, 2, 3 frames in the second and third. right field, top spin, base hit. That's the 4th hit for Philadelphia. 3rd in the World Series for Kevin Stocker. And it's the 2nd time in as many innings that the Phillies have had the first man on.
John Kruk doubled to open the 4th inning, and then Dave Hollins walked. Kevin Stocker with his 3rd hit of the series. He's now 3 for 8. I think the reason Jim Fragosi's going to Wes Chamberlain here is that Milt Thompson, a left-handed batter, is a low ball hitter, and Hinkin, when he throws the fastball, has been keeping it up around the letters of the Phillies hitters.
So Danny Jackson's night is finished after 5 innings. Double play ball to second. Fernandez turns it. So Chamberlain, making his first World Series appearance, went up there and swung at the first pitch and bounced into a 4-6-3 double play.
Swinging at the first pitch is fine when you have 4 at-bats a night. There are different schools of thought about whether a pinch hitter should come off the bench swinging. Obviously, if it's a fastball, go to hacking. But this is it looked like an 0-2 pitch to Chamberlain. The ball off the plate, a slider, and he grounds into 2.
Now Dykstra, who was 0 for 2 tonight, struck out in the 1st, bounced to 1st in the 3rd. One and one on Dykstra. And among those in attendance tonight, Norristown, Pennsylvania native Tommy Lasorda, talking to Ed Lynch, a former pitcher, now an assistant to Joe McIlvaine of the New York Mets. Routine fly to center. And White puts it away. That ends the inning after 5, 4-0 Toronto.
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer battery. It keeps
Gentlemen, this pink fuzzy bunny is killing us. The future of Supervolt batteries looks bleak. And the latest attempt to develop our own mascot, the Supervolt Weasel, has fallen dreadfully short. To survive, we need to neutralize the Energizer bunny.
But how?
His battery. We get his battery, no more Energizer bunny. But I'm in the process of finding individuals who can, how shall I say, assist us. Say goodbye, Mr. Energizer Bunny.
Introducing the all-new GMC Sonoma. We've packed everything we know into this one, Sonoma from GMC Truck.
Laura Glenn is being dragged down by a tough cold, but she's about to break free with an effervescent rush of relief. Alka-Seltzer Plus cold medicine. Pills take time to dissolve, but Alka-Seltzer Plus is ready the moment you take it, rushing powerful medicines to soothe your aches, relieve your runny nose, free your breathing. Nothing rushes relief like Alka-Seltzer Plus.
Get out your game cards. It's time for the Budweiser World Series Classic Play.
Game 3, 1989. San Francisco and Oakland combined for a World Series record 7 home runs, powering Oakland to a 13-7 victory.
7 home runs. Write it down. You could win $100,000 from Budweiser.
Sean McDonough with Tim McCarver, Pat O'Brien and Jim Gray at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, Game 3 of the World Series. You're looking at Mike Piazza, who just completed a brilliant rookie season with the Los Angeles Dodgers, already named National League Rookie of the Year by Baseball America. And I imagine every organization that hands out a Rookie of the Year award will honor Mike Piazza.
Ben Rivera is the reliever for Danny Jackson. Danny Jackson going 5 innings and giving up 4 runs on 6 hits. Ben Rivera has not pitched in 12 days. The last time he worked was 2 scoreless innings against the Atlanta Braves in the 2nd game of the National League Championship Series 12 days ago. Check that, he gave up 1 run in that game.
A home run to Terry Pendleton. Roberto Alomar looked at ball 1. And a strike. Alomar, Fernandez, and Sprague do against Ben Rivera, 25-year-old right-hander from the Dominican Republic. Pours over a fastball for strike 2. They call him Big Ben. He's 6'6", 230 pounds. Alomar to left, sinking fast. Incaviglia will lay back on it, play it on a hop. No diving catch this time for Inky, who made a spectacular catch on the ball hit by Carter to end the 5th. So Alomar is 2 for 3 tonight. And that'll bring up Tony Fernandez. He's from the same hometown in the Dominican Republic as Ben Rivera, San Pedro de Macorís. And Fernandez had an infield hit his last time up. He's 1 for 2. 7 hits now for Toronto. They're out hitting the Phillies 7-4. Danny Jackson worked 5 innings, allowed 4 runs, all earned on 6 hits, including the Molitor homer. Danny walked 1 and struck out 1. He threw 89 pitches. Alomar runs, the pitch, a ball, the throw. Hit Stalker up around the throat, it appeared. And he's still down on a knee. Stolen base for Alomar. And Stalker appeared to take it in the throat. And he waves off the training staff.
The throat's one thing. The Adam's apple is quite another. Catchers get it often in the muscles of the throat. But when you get it on that Adam's apple, that's when it becomes very, very disturbing. Watch how the ball comes up on Kevin Stalker. Kind of rolls up the body and pops him right in the neck. Boy, it looked like he kept his chin down low enough to where the ball couldn't get cleanly into the middle of the throat.
Might have hit the seam where the turf meets the dirt. Of course, Tony Kubek can attest to what it's like to get hit in the Adam's apple.
1960 series against Pittsburgh.
Bad hop grounder hit by Bill Verdon. So Alomar has a stolen base, and he's in scoring position with nobody out, and count of 1-0 on Fernandez. 2-0 now. Tony started the season with the New York Mets and didn't fare very well. Hit .225 for New York before being traded to the Blue Jays, back to Toronto for the 2nd time, and a deal for Darren Jackson, the outfielder. And Mets manager Dallas Green was quite open in suggesting that Fernandez dogged it during his time with the Mets to force the Mets into a trade. Tony points out that he was bothered by kidney stones back then. It isn't often you hear a manager say something as critical as that, as openly as Green did. Throw to third, safe. And Alomar was thrown out trying to steal third in a crucial situation in game 2. Steals third easily this time.
With the Blue Jays up by 2 runs in game 2 in the 8th inning and 2 outs, he was on second base against Mitch Williams. And he tried to steal third, but this is just like an infielder who makes an error and wants to get back there on defense again and have a ball hit to him. Undeterred with the left-handed batter up there, and look at the slide to the outside of the bag.
Now Fernandez rips one to right. Eyes in right. Makes a nice leaping catch on the track. And Alomar cruises in from third to make it 5-0 Toronto. Third RBI of the series for Tony Fernandez. We're at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia for Game 3 of the 1993 World Series. Toronto leads 5-0. The Blue Jays jumped out early to a 3-0 lead in the first inning. Ball game delayed at the start, an hour and 12 minutes by rain. And Sprague a foul ball for strike one. He's 0 for 2 tonight, now 1 for 10 in the series.
Jim Fregosi talking about teams with speed when they play the Phillies. He said teams with speed can push runs across. We have to pull ours across with the base hit. Roberto Alomar just pushed the run across. That is really the definition of manufacturing a run. Single, 2 stolen bases, and a sac fly.
Ben Rivera's 1-2 pitch just outside. 2-2 on Sprague, whose wife Kristen Babb Sprague won a gold medal for the United States at the Summer Olympics in Barcelona last year in solo synchronized swimming. And I had to ask Ed about solo synchronized swimming. Kind of seems to be contradictory, an oxymoron perhaps, but it's being in sync with the music. Of course, that raises the question, how do they hear the music when they're underwater? Waterproof Walkman, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Our crack crew informs us they do pump in the water, the sound underneath the water. Sprague strikes out for the second out of the inning. Very light rain falling at the moment, just nuisance factor for those in attendance. And the batter is Pat Borders, 0 for 2. The 2 stolen bases in this inning by Alomar ties a World Series record for most stolen bases in one inning. This is the 8th time it's been done. Babe Ruth did it once back in 1921. Good fastball.
1921 was the last year that the World Series had a 5 out of 9 format. The best 5 out of 9 won the series. 1903 and then 1919, 1920 and 1921.
First World Series was in 1903. Broken bat. The bat was flying into the crowd behind the Blue Jay dugout.
It appears that everybody's all right. And now they'll take the bat, of course, and Borders will have a new bat.
Well, it sounded like he broke it.
It did, but I'm not too sure he broke it or not. It looked like he had tape on the bat, and the new one that he picked up does not have tape. So what they'll do is exchange the bats. The fan will become a lucky fan in 2 ways. Lucky to have dodged the bat, and they'll get a new bat.
Apparently he didn't break it. It just made an odd sound as he got it off the end of the bat.
I thought he broke it.
And he draws a walk. First walk thrown by Rivera. But it didn't take long for the Achilles heel of the Phillies. Little relief pitching show itself. Rivera has pitched 2/3 of an inning, already has surrendered 1 run. And here's Henkin. How about his bat? You can tell he didn't take much batting practice with it. That is about as shiny and new as a bat can be. Pat said he was going to get the lightest bat he could find.
And he chokes up on it. I think the bat weighs 30 ounces.
mentioned earlier he played shortstop as a sophomore and junior in high school in Michigan. He said he realized he didn't have the foot speed to be a very good shortstop, so he concentrated on pitching as a senior. He's down a little bit lower now on the bat. Takes a fastball for strike 1 and 2.
You may be interested in knowing the average weight of a major league bat, about 33 ounces, somewhere between 33 and a half. Stan Musial used a 31-ounce bat. Willie Mays a 36-ounce bat.
And the breaking ball gets Hankton. We'll return to Veterans Stadium after this message and a word from your local station.
Tonight on Late Show with David Letterman, David Steinberg, and
I was like the John Gotti of my neighborhood.
Bo Jackson.
I happen to be the best fielding pitcher in the league.
Think baseball fans go crazy? Meet Paul Sheldon's #1 fan.
I'm also a nurse.
She's very loyal.
If I die, you die.
But watch out for her curve.
Is this what you're looking for?
James Caan and Oscar winner Kathy Bates.
And for God's sake.
Going. Her mind is gone. Misery next Tuesday contains some violent scenes.
This is CBS.
Dodge Caravan is America's favorite minivan.
Why?
Because it's always being improved. This year, both driver and front passenger airbags are standard.
Why?
To meet 1998 car safety requirements. Which is also why Caravan now has additional dynamic side impact protection. And there's an available integrated child safety seat that reclines.
Why?
Ask your mother.
I know. Say we didn't get the package.
Martha!
Tom! Did you get our package?
Gee, it never got here.
Really?
Introducing tracking software from Federal Express.
It was delivered to your place at 9:22 a.m.
Ah! Probably stuck in the mailroom.
No, it was signed for by your partner, Brian.
Now you can track packages right from your computer on your desk.
Brian, are you there?
Oh, that package, Martha! We could negotiate a deal.
It comes specially equipped with dual airbags, cruise control, air conditioning, 4-speaker AM/FM cassette stereo, and power accessories like luxury sedans costing twice the money. The 1994 Nissan Altima GXE. It not only defines what a luxury car should be, it redefines what a luxury car should cost. Lease the Altima for just $750 down and $229 a month for 36 months.
He makes your heart sing. Channel 10 News after the game.
Welcome back to Veterans Stadium as we head to the bottom of the 6th inning. I'm Jim Gray. I'm joined by Mr. Pat Henkin, and as you watch your son, Pat Henkin, on the mound, you usually don't watch him pitch. How come?
I'm afraid I might jinx him. But I didn't jinx him today, did I?
No, so far you haven't. You had an opportunity to meet with him during the rain delay. What did he tell you?
I was down in a tunnel just before we came up here, and he motioned to me to come over. And he said, Dad, is this great or what? Oh, wow. I can't believe it. Incredible.
You're extremely nervous, aren't you, watching your son?
I'm getting better. I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm all right.
Mr. Henkin, thanks for joining us. Sean and Timmy?
One proud dad, you'd have to say, wouldn't you?
Well, I'll say.
They talk regularly, do Pat Henkin Jr. and Sr. Mariano Duncan looked at a strike. He singled in the first inning, fly to center in the third. In fact, it's been a routine every 5 days or so for the last 8 years. Pat Henkin talks to his dad before or after every start that he makes. Henkin had thrown 70 pitches through the first 5 innings in pitching a shutout. 5-0 Toronto. We're in the 6th. Of course, Pat Henkin seemed to have the importance of pitching in the postseason in perspective during the LCS when he made the start against Chicago. His mother, Marcia, was not in attendance because Pat Henkin's only sister was due to give birth to her first child at any moment. And when Pat Henkin was asked about the importance of his start against the White Sox and the birth of his first nephew, he said, I think my sister having a baby is more important than me pitching. You've got to remember, this is just a game. Duncan looks at a ball high, and the count is full. Duncan, Kruk, and Hollins coming up. Duncan has only walked one. That was Hollins in the fourth. Duncan fouled the 3-2 away.
And with a 5-run lead, pitchers and catchers are trained. Do not walk the leadoff batter. You don't want to do that at any time, but particularly when you have a 5-run cushion. Throw the ball right down the pipe. You'll see Borders. He's sitting right behind the middle of the plate, and he'll want a fastball, and he's trying to tell Henkin to keep it down. I don't even think he gave him a sign.
High fastball popped up. Duncan chased ball 4. Molitor has a play and makes it in foul ground. Molitor knocked in the first 2 Toronto runs in the first inning with a triple that drove in Ricky Henderson and Devon White. Molitor scored on a sacrifice fly by Joe Carter. Then it was Molitor again with 2 outs in the third, his solo home run to make it 4-0. Then against Ben Rivera in the 6th, Roberto Alomar led off, singled, stole second and third, and scored on a sacrifice fly by Tony Fernandez. Phillies have had 2 good chances to score in the first inning. They had second and third and 1 out. Fourth inning, first and second and nobody out. Did not score in either inning, and they're still scoreless in the 6th with 1 out and the bases empty. A count of 1-0 on John Kruk. Kruk is 7 for 11 in the World Series now with his 2 for 2 tonight. First inning single, a 4th inning double. Earlier in the postseason, we saw his ripped pants, and rather than go to a new pair, they just fixed the pants.
What a clothes horse.
Of course, we mentioned the other night about all the talk about the Phillies' weight, but the PR men representing Major League Baseball here at the World Series, Mike Swanson of the Colorado Rockies, Rich Griffin of the Expos, computed the average weight of the starters, and the Phillies were only about a pound per man heavier than the Blue Jays. Then you look at the list, and they go by the weight listed for Kruk in the program, which is 214 pounds. Some of the Blue Jays were protesting the stats, saying that Kruk isn't 214. There were 3 Toronto Blue Jays listed as heavier than Kruk: Carter, Sprague, and Olerud. And Carter in particular say, hey, there's no way I'm the heaviest guy on the field.
Yeah, well, heavy or not, the only thing the Phillies care about are runs on the board and production, and boy, can that guy ever produce. Cecil Fielder's got to love John Kruk. Cecil Fielder's proven that wrong since he came back from Japan, that you got to be thin to hit.
1 out, a runner at first. That's the second walk issued by Henkin. Kruk has been on base 3 times tonight. Hollins hits it well foul back into the stands and right. At the conclusion of tonight's game, Tim and I will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in the player's name to the Special Olympics. 6th inning, 5-0 Blue Jays. Oh, 2. There's Mitch Wild Thing Williams, who saved game 2.
He's in the dugout right now. Usually short relievers don't even go to the bullpen until the middle of the 7th inning. They sit in the dugout until then. Williams realizes he's not going to be called upon until late in the game, if ever.
1-2 on Hollins. Darren Dalton is on deck.
Little surprise, Molitor is holding Kruk on at first base. Kruk's going nowhere, and a normal ground ball to the right side that gets through there. Cito Gaston will not forgive himself.
to right and right at Carter. Hollins hit it well, but it stayed in the air for Carter.
See, if you have a right-handed pull hitter up there, it doesn't matter. But when you have the big guns up there, right-handed pitcher, you really should play the first baseman behind the runner at first. And that's what Cito Gaston's going to do right now.
And I think Dave Hollins was about to do some damage to that batting helmet. One of the most intense Phillies is Dave Hollins, the most intense. As a matter of fact, Jim Fregosi said he's the most intense player he's ever been around in 30-odd years of professional baseball. Darren Daulton has had a frustrating night. He's come up in a couple of spots to help the cause for the Phillies and hasn't gotten the job done. He struck out swinging with 2 men in scoring position in the first, and he popped to second with runners at first and second and nobody out in the fourth. The ball 2-0 on Daulton. There's Hollins. He takes on kind of a different personality when game time approaches. His teammates call him Mikey. Can't talk to Mikey. Well, an hour prior to game time through the end of the ball game. Otherwise a very pleasant guy.
Oh, absolutely. Very bright guy. Baseball has a no fraternizing rule where you can't talk to opposing players before the game. There's a minor fine for that.
There is?
Yeah,
you
there
never
is.
know it by watching.
Tell me about it. I know. But Dave Hollins doesn't even talk to his own teammates.
Well, that's taking extra precautions to avoid the fine.
It's a fine that is rarely levied, I might add. Usually an umpire before the game, the home plate umpire, is responsible for that. But that is not in vogue anymore.
Full count on Daulton. Should he reach? Jim Eisenreich would bat next. In the bottom of the sixth, Pat Henkin is working on a 4-hit shutout. And the Blue Jays lead 5-0. They try to take a 2-1 lead in the World Series. Truck runs on the 3-2 pitch. And Daulton chopped it foul. We've noticed a couple of times in the World Series that Kruk still appears to be bothered by the bad back that plagued him at the end of the regular season and early in the series against Atlanta in the LCS. He runs again, and that's ball 4. 2 walks thrown by Henkin here in the 6th. Now here's Eisenreich, who was 0 for 2 tonight.
When you have a big lead, walks are worse at times than hits, because by putting guys on, what that does is it makes the pitcher more conscious of throwing strikes, and somehow he seems to find the fat part of the plate more often than not. And then the big hit can make it a new ball game in a hurry.
2 men on with 2 outs. Henkin had only thrown 70 pitches coming into this inning. He's thrown 22 here in the 6th. And he misses high again. That brings Borders out to the mound. A look back at game 2, 3rd inning. Jim Eisenreich against Dave Stewart with a 3-run homer, having a 5-run inning. Kurt Schilling had an inkling that Eisenreich might hit a home run in the game. He had a couple in his career against Dave Stewart. When Eisenreich was in the American League, said, hit a home run tonight for your daughter. And Eisenreich did.
Galen Cisco,
pardon me.
Sean. Cisco out to talk to Henkin, and probably about that very thing. I mean, one pitch in the fat part of the plate to a guy with power, and Eisenreich certainly has that power. And we could see a different ball game here. There's Danny Cox. He is the only pitcher on the Toronto staff that Jim Eisenreich hasn't faced.
Cox, a former Philly, and an excellent season in his first year with Toronto. The 1-0 to Eisenreich. Up the middle, base hit past the diving Fernandez. And the Phillies are on the board as Kruk comes around to score. And Jim Eisenreich has his team leading 5th RBI of the World Series.
And Jim got a fat fastball right down the middle. As we said, Henkin forced into a situation where he had to throw a predictable pitch, and big league hitters, good hitters like Eisenreich, do not miss those very often.
Kind of a typical Phillies run, generated by patience, their ability to draw the walk. Now the tying run is in the on-deck circle. And now Henkin is battling to stay in the ball game. 5-1 Toronto, 6th inning. 2 men on with 2 outs. In Cavilla. Big rip and a miss. Henkin struck out in Cavilla in the 2nd. And the last time Inky came up was in the 4th with runners at 1st and 2nd and 2 outs, and he flied to center. The head went flying out at the breaking ball, 0-2. Oh for 6 with runners on base, and overall he's 1 for 7. Dalton at 2nd, Eisenreich at 1st. And a ball high to Incavilla. He thought his career might have been over a couple of years ago when he was released by the Detroit Tigers. The 1-2 struck him out on a breaking ball. So Henkin gives up 1 but gets out of another jam. And after 6, the Blue Jays 5 and the Phillies 1.
Chevy announces a breakthrough. Introducing the 94 Chevy S-Series Extended Cab, so new from the inside out. Everything else is history.
I finally made it to the big leagues. And my first game, we get the call. And I'm thinking, how lucky can a guy get?
Beechwood aged for that fresh, distinctive taste. Crisp, clean, classic.
You need 2 hands to count all the special rates and discounts on Allstate car insurance. For more than 1 car, pickup trucks, anti-lock brakes, airbags. Good drivers, excellent drivers with Allstate home insurance. And retired drivers over 55. Just pick up a phone and call an Allstate agent for details. For lots of ways to save, you're in good hands with Allstate.
What's new from Xerox? Xerox Extreme 450 antifreeze and a new 4-year guarantee. We've taken our promise to extremes. For the next 4 years or the next 50,000 miles, we guarantee the temperature never drops below Xerox.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 3 of the 1993 World Series is brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for a crisp, clean, classic taste. The new Chevy S-Series line of trucks. AT&T, we help put your world within reach. And by Energizer brand batteries, nothing outlasts the Energizer.
On to the 7th inning here at the Vet in Philadelphia. John Olerud has been a spectator to this point, but it's certainly possible he could be in the game soon with the Blue Jays leading in the 7th inning. The last batting champion who led his league in batting average, who did not start a World Series game, was the man you saw, Chick Hafey, who did not start Game 7 of the 1931 World Series. There hasn't been a batting champion who's been in the World Series since then who has failed to start a World Series game. You think Olerud might get in with Molitor due up third and the Blue Jays already ahead, and Henderson on his way to an extra base hit. So answering the calls to bench him, Ricky Henderson is 2 for 4 tonight.
I think the point Cito Gaston was trying to make by continuing to play Ricky Henderson was that if you're going to get him, you got to keep him and play him. I mean, the reason you got him was to help your team not only get to postseason, but once postseason started, to continue to play Ricky Henderson. He is too much of an impact player to sit down, and you may expect a bunt here from Devon White.
Foul ball, pass first.
Went down to talk to Nick Leyva, the third base coach. By the way, Nick Leyva, we mentioned in Game 1, formerly the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies. When he was fired, Jim Fregosi took over, and Nick received a rather warm response tonight from the Philadelphia Phillies fans. Scattered boos, you're saying?
There were a few boos.
I've learned that look in 2 years.
I heard mostly boos. But maybe we heard different introductions.
Maybe we were rehearsing. I don't know.
Yes, we might have been. He was wondering what kind of response he would get. And of course, in Philadelphia, as the locals are somewhat proud of, booing is a tradition. Even Mayor Ed Rendell admits to having come out when he was a youngster and booed the Phillies. It was a close play, but Henderson was back safely. And 1 strike is the count on White. Holland still in tight at third. Ben Rivera, the pitcher. He's pitched an inning plus 1 batter here in the 7th, and has given up 2 hits following the double by Henderson. Blue Jays lead 5-1. They've out hit Philadelphia 8-5. White squares to bunt, and he fouled it off.
Cito Gaston gave him 1 shot to pull the ball, and then he went to the bunt. By the way, the Mariners usually have a minor wager.
They do. On this World Series, they're betting baseball equipment, about $1,500 worth between Philadelphia and Toronto. And Ed Rendell says, well, even if we lose the bet, we'll just send the equipment Atlanta's sending us up to Toronto. So he looks at this as a double or nothing proposition. Time call.
Even the Philadelphia Zoo has gotten into the action. If the Phillies win, they get 2 Tasmanian devils from the Toronto Zoo. And if the Blue Jays win, the Philadelphia Zoo will loan Toronto 2 white lion cubs. So even the zoos are in on it.
Wow. Check swing at a ball in the dirt. Dalton blocked it, then thought about a throw down to second.
Nice play by Darren Dalton. See how he turns that over? Just like a pizza pan. Rotating the mitt from receiving a high pitch to a low pitch.
Still 1-2 on White. We want to finish the point about Chick Hafey. I know you remember Chick Hafey of the Cardinals back in 1931, the batting champion who did not start Game 7 of the 31 World Series. The reason he didn't start, of course, had nothing to do with the DH. Back then, he was 4 for 24. He made a key error in left field in Game 6. So he did not start in Game 7. Check swing and another breaking ball in the dirt. Ernie Orsatti started in left field.
Matter of fact, he never played again for the Cardinals. Gabby Street was the manager and was so upset by his World Series performance. Chick Hafey never played another game in a St. Louis uniform.
Went to Cincinnati in the offseason, was replaced in left field by Ducky Medwick. But in that 31 World Series Game 7, it was Ernie Orsatti in left field. White down the line, fair ball, and another run for Toronto. Henderson around to make it 6-1. White streaking toward third. He'll have a triple standing up. So Devon White continues to have a big series. As his first hit tonight, his fourth in the 3 games, and his third run batted in.
That's after 12 hits in the ALCS. Devon White is the only member of both clubs who has hit in every game. Lynn Dykstra had hit in every game, but he's 0 for 3 on the night. So White driving in Henderson with a triple in the corner. And the Blue Jays extend their lead.
And again tonight, the Philadelphia bullpen provides no relief. And Rivera has given up 2 runs in 1 inning. Infield in for the Phillies with Paul Molitor at the plate. He's 2 for 3 with a 2-run triple in the first. And a solo homer in the third. He bounced to third his last time up. He has scored twice and has driven in 3.
We talked about how Molitor explodes his hips into the ball. Look at the home run swing.
Triple by Molitor. That's well hit to left. Up and in, 2-1. 6-1 Toronto in the 7th inning. Molitor is now 5 for 10 in the World Series. Did you know that Ernie Orsatti, who went in for Chick Hafey, was only 5'7", 145 pounds?
No, I didn't.
And appeared in Buster Keaton movies. No. He wasn't playing baseball. He went 0 for 3, but the Cardinals did win without Chick Hafey in Game 7. For those who are wondering about the rest of the story. And that probably includes 3 or 4 in our viewing audience tonight. Full count now on Molitor. And the payoff pitch is not close. Molitor is aboard for the 3rd time tonight. There is action in the Philadelphia bullpen, and Dalton and Duncan go to the mound to buy time for Bobby Thigpen, who was up very early when Jackson had a tough time in the first couple of innings.
The way this inning is going, in all probability, the number 3 spot will be up again, probably in the 9th inning, which means that Molitor could hit again. But I would think with a 5-run lead and the chance for another big inning here that Cito Gaston will be thinking more about defense and insert John Olerud in the bottom of the 7th inning. You can see John getting loose.
He once described his personality as just south of comatose. Joe Carter looked at ball 1 low and away. Excellent backhanded stab by Dalton with the runner at third.
Fine play by Darren Dalton to prevent further damage, but now with nobody out, the Philly infield has moved back into double play depth, conceding what would be the 7th run if they can push it across.
A ball and a strike on Carter. He's 1 for 2 with a single and a sacrifice fly tonight. (6-1) Toronto in Game 3 of the World Series. In the 7th inning, still nobody out. first 3 Jays have reached. Molitor had 22 stolen bases during the regular season. More than 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases at age 37. He's the oldest man to do that. And of course, Rickey Henderson did that this year at age 34. And Rickey is the second oldest player. They have 20 home runs and 20 steals in the same season. And Tommy Craig, the excellent Blue Jays trainer, putting a bandage on the leg of Rickey Henderson. One and two the count. Ben Rivera, formerly the property of the Atlanta Braves organization. Came over in a trade May of 1992 for Donnie Elliott. Molitor runs. Carter fouls one out of play. Molitor in his first year with the Blue Jays after 15 in Milwaukee. His manager his last year in Milwaukee was Phil Garner. Garner said if Molitor had played in a major market for all those years under high visibility and media scrutiny, he would be considered the best player in the game. Breaking ball in the dirt.
I think about 5 or 6 years ago, I don't think people were thinking about Paul Molitor in Hall of Fame terms, but now you only think of him in Hall of Fame terms.
And he's under contract to the Blue Jays for 2 more seasons. This is the first year of a 3-year, $13 million contract. Still 2-2 on Carter. He'll be followed by Roberto Alomar. Here in the 7th, pace has slowed with Rivera in trouble since the inning began. A pop up. Dalton goes as far as he can go and couldn't make the play.
Dalton found the ball through the mask and ran out of room. You can actually go in the dugout to catch the ball. Matter of fact, if you have it in your mitt and anyone touches you and you drop the ball as a result, the batter is out.
There's been a lot of talk about the length of the games. This has been a 5-minute at bat for Carter. He's only seen 7 pitches. He strikes out on the breaking ball in the dirt.
And another fine play by Darren Dalton. Nice play by Dalton as he smothers the slider to keep not only a run from scoring, but Molitor from going to second.
That's the first out of the inning. And 3rd strikeout for Rivera, who's pitched an inning and a 3rd. Von White, the runner, at 3rd. Paul Molitor is aboard at 1st. In the 7th, the Blue Jays lead 6-1. They've led throughout after taking a 3-0 lead in the top of the 1st. Roberto Alomar is 2 for 3. 2 singles, 2 stolen bases, and a run scored tonight for the All-Star and Gold Glove winner at second base in the American League. At the knees, a strike. base hit right field. And another run for Toronto as Devon White is in from third to make it 7-1. Molitor to third on the play. And Roberto Alomar has his third hit of the night, his third RBI of the World Series. And here comes Jim Fregosi. He's consulting with Mark Johnson. He's probably going to make a double switch, and he will, as he has Milt Thompson trotting onto the field. And he'll take over for Pete Incaviglia in left. And there will be a pitching change as well. We're in the 7th inning. The Blue Jays lead 7-1. They're up to 10 hits now. And Bobby Thigpen will be the new pitcher. We'll return to Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia right after this.
Fred's my AT&T sales rep.
The country gives me the creeps, but I came out here to tell Jan about AT&T's Maximum Advantage.
Everything about it is simple, except running it.
Maximum Advantage doesn't work for you. You're automatically enrolled. You get AT&T's best service at our lowest price guaranteed. We'll look at your calling patterns quarterly and make new recommendations. Jan, with our international fax and calling plans for our 800 service, you can be hosting the whole world that you're in.
Hi.
We're the Raskins. Ah, welcome.
Fred really knows my business. I'm sure I could get him up here full time.
When I slide into home, it's like two trains colliding. I'm the big train.
All men are created equal. Some just work harder in the preseason.
Love this place! It's the new Burger King Everyday Value Menu with big Flame Broiled burgers for only 99 cents.
I can't do it myself for 99 cents.
Your favorite Burger King foods at new, lower everyday prices, like the Croissant Combo served hot and fresh for $1.99. Check your Burger King Everyday Value Menu and be sure to try the delicious Flame Broiled Whopper Combo for $2.99.
That's great news for my pocketbook.
Value every day. Have it your way.
You're gonna want to come back every day.
When the doctor told me to come in right away, I was scared. This burning pain was real. Was I relieved when my doctor said Mylanta?
For heartburn, Mylanta is the antacid doctors recommend most.
My doctor said Mylanta.
What tire do you trust in the wet? A tire that removes over 2 gallons of water per second from under the tread. The all-season MX-4. Another engineering splash from Michelin.
Another highlight from Game 3 of the '69 series.
Two-strike delivery. Here's a fly ball to right center field. Deep in right center. Jamsky with A.G. A.G. dives, and he makes it.
That was in the 7th inning. The second terrific catch of the ball game by Tommy Agee. Bases loaded and 2 outs. And that was a catch on a ball hit by Paul Blair. Nolan Ryan got the save in that ball game. And here's Bobby Thigpen, who did not record a save in 17 games with the Phillies. He came over in a midseason deal for Jose De Leon. And his first pitch, a ball to Tony Fernandez. It was a double switch. Milt Thompson now in left. Thompson will bat in the number 9 spot, and Thigpen would hit in the number 7 spot. And Incaviglia made the last out of the inning, so Thigpen would be scheduled to hit 9th in the 7th inning. And that's how it looks on the lineup card. Stocker scheduled to lead off when we go to the bottom of the 7th. Still only 1 out in the top of the inning. 2 runs in. The Blue Jays have built a 7-1 lead.
By the way, Sean, you talk about that 1969 series when the Mets beat the Baltimore Orioles in 5 games. The gentleman who recorded the save in game number 2 was Ron Taylor, who is the team physician of the Toronto Blue Jays now. Ron Taylor, also a teammate of mine on the 1964 world champion St. Louis Cardinals.
So he's no stranger to a ring. Fernandez at the plate with runners at first and third. Paul Molitor is the runner at third base. And Roberto Alomar being held on by John Kruk at first. Full count on Fernandez. Blue Jays have come through with runners in scoring position tonight, and that's been a big problem for Philadelphia. The Phillies have had some chances but have managed only one run.
Yeah, I think especially in the bottom of the first inning, because Toronto had scored 3 in the top. If they answer with 1 or 2, then they're immediately back in the ball game.
Alomar was running with a 3-2 pitch. Fernandez drew a walk. This has been the problem spot for the Phillies all year long, middle relief, and it hasn't been for lack of trying different options. Among those used by Jim Fregosi in middle relief this year, not as a setup man or closer, just middle relief. Bob Ayrault, Mark Davis, Jose De Leon, Tyler Green, Roger Mason, Tim Mauser, Don Paul, Bobby Thigpen, and Mike Williams. You know you're having problems when you run through that many guys, and it's not due to injury. Thigpen set the major league record with 57 saves, but he hasn't been the same since then. That was in 1990, an ERA of 1.83. The ERA has gone up, the saves have gone down, and every year since. That looked like a pretty good pitch. Call the ball, 1-1 on Sprague, who's 0 for 3 tonight. And now just 1 for 11 in the World Series. White Sox general manager Ron Schuler made the trade and he sent Thigpen to Philadelphia. He said it's not beyond the realm of possibility that Thigpen could return to his previous form.
Thigpen got a break there.
Yes, indeed. 1-2 the count. He said every now and then the velocity is good. There's good movement on the slider. But it's just been sporadic in recent years. Good movement on that pitch to deep left. Thompson, the catch, and Molitor comes home from third. It's 8-1 Blue Jays. Ed Sprague has his first RBI of the World Series. And Molitor has scored for the 3rd time tonight. That run is charged to Rivera.
I wonder if Cito Gaston is tempted to play Paul Molitor tomorrow night. He said he wouldn't, but after this performance tonight, how do you sit him down? Of course, you have a right-handed starter tomorrow night, Tommy Green.
Pat Borders to shallow left center. Dykstra coming hard. Great catch. And that saved at least 1 run for Philadelphia. The Blue Jays get 3 in the 7th, and at the stretch they lead 8-1.
Two summers, 2 winters, 2 springs, 2 falls. All this, just $2.99 a month. The S-Blazer 2-year lease. Why drive an imitation when you can drive the vehicle that originated the species? Chevy S-Blazer.
Citibank has really given us a new sense of self because we have our own identities.
I have a Citibank Visa card, and it does have my photo on it, so I have one less worry.
And not only that, but you can pick what you like, so it doesn't look like a DMV photo.
I don't know why the other credit cards aren't doing the same thing. We need a photo card so family members can tell us apart.
Introducing the first credit card with your photo and signature on front from not just Visa, Citibank Visa.
No, my plane's stuck somewhere back
east. The flight has been canceled. The 5 most hated words of every business traveler. On a day like this, I know it's not the airline's fault. Still, I just want somebody to give me some answers.
Let's see if we can reroute you through another city.
Those are the people I come back to. They try and find a way and give me my best option, maybe even on another airline. I appreciate that, because a little honesty goes a long way. Tell Billy by halftime, I'll be there.
Fred's my AT&T sales rep.
The country gives me the creeps. But I came out here to tell Jan about AT&T's Maximum Advantage.
Everything about it is simple, except running it.
Maximum Advantage doesn't work for you. You're automatically enrolled. You get AT&T's best service at our lowest price guaranteed. We'll look at your calling patterns quarterly and make new recommendations. Jan, with our international fax and calling plans for our 800 service, you could be hosting the whole world that you're in.
Hi.
We're the Raskins.
Ah, welcome.
Fred really knows my business. I'm sure I could get him up here full time.
All those who love great comedy say oi, oi.
The Nanny premieres Wednesday, November 3rd on CBS.
The Philly Fanatic in action earlier with the strains of Whoop, There It Is, which is becoming a popular refrain around sports, including here in Philadelphia. There are different versions of this song. You can hear that this one has been tailor-made for the Phillies.
Doubtful that Whoop, There It Is will ever be played by the Philadelphia Orchestra, however.
No. But in some versions it's Whoop, There It Is, or Woomph. But here it's Woot with a T on the end. Just thought you'd like to know.
Maybe it's the accent.
Which version do you go by?
Whoop.
You're a Whoop guy?
W-H-O-O-M-P. Whoop.
Danny Cox, the new pitcher for Toronto after 6 superlative innings from Pat Henkin. And Cox's first pitch in this World Series is a strike to Kevin Stalker, who singled his last time up. He's 1 for 2. Phillies with a lot of work to do now. Batting in the 7th inning, down by 7 runs, 8-1. Henkin allowed 1 run on 5 Philadelphia hits over 6 innings. He walked 3 and struck out 6. 5 of those in the first 2 1/3. Came out throwing hard by his standards. Velocity certainly had returned after being down in his most recent starts. And Molitor has been the story of the night. Cito Gaston decided to put him in at first base. Put John Olerud, the league's leading hitter, on the bench. And Molitor certainly made the manager look smart. He has 2 hits, a homer, and a triple. He's driven in 3 runs and has scored 3. Stalker strikes out. Game 4 tomorrow night here at the Vet. 8 o'clock Eastern time, with the first pitch scheduled for 8:12. Lenny Dykstra will be looking out at Todd Stottlemyre tomorrow night. Both teams will use 4 starting pitchers in this World Series. Tommy Green will go for Philadelphia. Milt Thompson up for the first time tonight. He appeared in game 1 and went 0 for 3. Chopped down the line, foul behind Mel Roberts in the first base coach's box. 1-2 on Thompson. 1 out, bases empty. 7th inning, 8-1 Toronto. Thompson hasn't done much with the bat over the late season, the League Championship Series or the World Series, but he has made a couple of splendid defensive plays. Blown away. 2-2 on Milt Thompson.
First major league game for Danny Cox was back on August 6, 1983, when he had a duel with Steve Carlton, who was then with the Phillies. Cardinals eventually won 1-0 in 11 innings.
Alomar a long way to his right. He went leaping in the air and then bounced it by Molitor. The play backed up by Borders, and Thompson is safe at first with 1 out.
Doubtful that if Molitor holds on, that Thompson is out. So it's an infield hit all the way for Milt Thompson.
And even though Molitor couldn't come up with it, it didn't prove costly as Borders hustled down the line. So the Phillies have 6 hits now. A runner at first with 1 out for Lenny Dykstra, who is 0 for 3 tonight. And now 3 for 11 in the World Series. Well hit, Carter has it sail over his head and go off the bottom of the wall. Thompson on his way to third, hits so sharply that Dykstra has to settle for a single. And that's the 12th consecutive postseason game with at least one hit for Lenny Dykstra.
So good hitting by Dykstra. Thompson goes to third easily, but watch the play by Joe Carter, playing the carom perfectly, and he holds Dykstra to first base. The Phillies did come from behind. They were trailing the San Francisco Giants 8-0 on April 26th. They ended up beating the Giants in that game. So this team certainly capable of mounting a comeback. They got a long way to go, however.
They do indeed. First and third and one out. Seventh inning, 8-1 Toronto. Duncan a base hit. Thompson is in. Dykstra to second. It's 8-2. And Mariano Duncan continues to produce in the number 2 spot in the Phillies batting order here in the World Series. He's 2 for 4 tonight. Has 6 hits in the 3 games. This is his first RBI.
Up the middle, Dykstra forced to stop at second. And now what the Phillies are looking for is a blast.
They have their big bats coming up. Their biggest bat in this series has been John Kruk, who will wait as Cox conferred with Borders. There is no action in Cito Gaston's bullpen at the moment. Kruk has singled and doubled and walked. He scored the only run charged to Henkin last inning. Strike, fastball on the outside third. And that's just outside. 1-1 on Kruk. Dave Hollins to follow.
Jim Fregosi so impressed with this Phillies ball club, saying that every day, day in and day out, you get 9 innings out of it. They don't care what the score is.
In the dirt and plucked out by Borders, keeping Dykstra at second and Duncan at first. Cox started this inning by striking out Stocker, but since then the Phillies have hit 3 straight singles by Thompson, Dykstra, and Duncan. Danny Cox, a 34-year-old veteran. Low, 3 balls and 1 strike. Outside, ball 4, and that loads the bases.
I think the obvious guy to have up right now and ready is Al Leiter. Remember, he won game 1, but nobody is throwing for the Blue Jays. And remember, tomorrow night Todd Stottlemyre is starting, and the implication from Cito Gaston talking to him on Sunday was that he's going to have Leiter fresh and ready to go if Stottlemyre gets in trouble. We kind of brought it up, and he said, yeah, that's exactly right. So that's one of the big reasons Leiter's not up tonight, one would think.
You wonder, as Cox continues to struggle, why somebody isn't up in the bullpen.
Yeah, right.
They're stirring around out there, but there isn't anybody throwing. Hollins pops one out of play.
Because now if you get a blast from the Phillies, even an extra base hit, then they creep a lot closer, and it may be too late to get the bullpen up. But it looks like Tony Castillo is up and throwing.
He is, and he's thrown 1 warm-up pitch. Bases full of Phillies with 1 out. On the ground hard. Molitor, nice play to second. Back to first. Out at first. And the Phillies will argue the call. The double play gets them out of the inning, 3-6-1. And Molitor did his part like he's played first base his entire life. Close play.
Oh, my back hurts and I had a game this afternoon. So I'm taking Advil. I know I'll feel better soon. More doctors recommend Advil by name to relieve backaches than any other brand. And you know, just one Advil is as effective relieving pain as 2 regular strength Tylenol. With Advil, there's no reason to let a sore back keep me from swinging. So now I can think about my game instead of my back. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
No, you haven't seen this before. Introducing the tough new chip-resistant finish on the '94 Chevy S-Series. So new from the inside out. Everything else is history.
Oh, Mr. Energizer Bunny, out for a stroll. My matter desolidificator will put an end to your precious little source of power. Your hippity-hoppity days are over.
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer battery. It keeps going and going.
What tire do you trust in the wet? A tire that removes over 2 gallons of water per second from under the tread. The all-season MX4. Another engineering splash from Michelin.
Love this place! It's the new Burger King Everyday Value Menu. Your favorite Burger King foods at lower everyday prices, like the delicious Whopper Value Meal for only $2.99. The new Burger King Everyday Value Menu.
Have it your way.
This game summary is sponsored by Burger King.
And it would be appropriate to say that Paul Molitor has had a whopper of a night with 3 runs batted in, a triple and a home run. Roberto Alomar 3 for 4 with a couple of stolen bases, and the Phillies 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position, including the ground ball into a double play by Hollins. It was very close at first.
It appeared that Hollins was safe. However, it was a call that could have gone to the Blue Jays. It did, but it was a very, very close play. From this angle, it looks like Hollins was safe more than from the other angle. Looks like
heel on the base as the ball is just going into the glove.
Right.
Danny Cox bats for himself, and Stalker throws him out. Charlie Williams was going to get an argument on that play probably either way.
Right.
But it was a big call. The Phillies would have had a run on the play and the inning would have stayed alive. Instead, it's 8-2 in the top of the 8th. 1 out and the base is empty. The top of the order coming back around for Toronto for the 5th time.
Not only scoring a run, it would have been an 8-3 ball game. 2 on and Darren Dalton up. If the Phillies could have had a pop at the right time, then they're right back in the game.
Now Ricky Henderson, who quieted some of his critics with his performance tonight. 2 for 4, 2 runs scored, a single and a double. And the top of the order has had a big night. Henderson 2 for 4 and 2 runs scored. White 1 for 3. He has scored twice. And Molitor 2 for 3 has scored 3 times and has driven in 3. The Blue Jays have set a World Series record tonight with 3 sacrifice flies. Not only has there not been a team with 3 sacrifice flies in a World Series game prior to tonight, but there had not been a World Series game prior to tonight in which the 2 teams had combined for 3 sacrifice flies. And the Jays have done that all by themselves. Dave Stewart reached him a smile with his club up by 6 in the late innings. Jack Morris has joined in the levity as well.
If you're interested, the sacrifice fly was an official stat in baseball in 1954. Earlier, Back in the teens, the 20s, the 30s, it was used sporadically. And obviously the big advantage to the hitter is he gets an RBI and is not charged with the time at bat.
Bobby Thigpen came on last inning, walked the first man he faced, and retired the next 2 hitters. Ben Rivera pitched an inning and a third of relief and gave up 4 runs. Those were 4 very big runs. Now that it's a 6-run game. Full count on Henderson. Will be a free agent at the end of the year. Oh! Well, you could hear that in your living room, and it sure sounded like it hurt.
Crunch. 3-2 pitch. It appeared that Thigpen was trying to come inside to Henderson, and it hit him on the left elbow, right above the elbow. Oh boy, almost on the tip. Ouch. It was somewhat glancing. I'll tell you, the worst that you can be hit is when the ball hits and the ball just stays there. When it goes back to the screen, it was not a solid blow, but certainly solid enough. That's all Ricky Henderson needs with his bad hands, is to have a bad elbow.
Both hands hurting, and now the left elbow is sore. Tommy Craig, the trainer, went out to check on Ricky, and he'll continue. He's at first with 1 out, and Devon White is coming up. You mentioned that it was White who had to surrender the leadoff spot, moved down to the number 2 spot for the most part. Henderson arrived, and White has handled Henderson's arrival very well by all reports. As a matter of fact, out at first. Thigpen picks off Henderson, and the elbow hurts a little more now.
Very quick move, and look at Henderson. He broke towards second, and now the throw nails him. Watch the move towards second. Too late to get back now.
Well, you had to think that after getting hit, Ricky would like nothing better than to steal second base off Bobby Thigpen. Thigpen wasted no time in going over there. 1 strike on White. We're mentioning that Devon has a copy of Ricky Henderson's biography, Man of Steel, it's called, S-T-E-A-L, in his locker. Devon says he hasn't read it yet. He will. As we mentioned the other night, batting second behind Henderson. White has seen more fastballs, and he's a good fastball hitter. Devon has 4 hits in the World Series now, all 4 for extra bases, including his triple that drove in a run last inning. He scored last inning. He scored after walking in the first. He's 2 for 3, 1 for 3 rather, tonight, with 2 runs scored. Well, we had tonight's game delayed 1 hour and 12 minutes by rain. And there is the possibility, the considerable chance of rain here tomorrow night, 70%. It's reduced to 30% on Thursday when Game 5 is scheduled. It sure has been nice here throughout the postseason. We've been here for the games with the Braves and the last couple of days, yesterday and today. Today was a nice day until shortly before game time. Pleasantly warm, and in the 70s yesterday here. And Paul Molitor waits on deck. Full count on White. We're in the top of the 8th. The Blue Jays lead 8-2. They've out-hit the Phillies 10-8. Toronto has made the game's only error. Bobby Thigpen, product of Mississippi State. Watches White drill one to deep right, hooking. Foul. Home run distance down the runway toward the 200 level concourse.
That's the way Bobby Thigpen used to hit them at Mississippi State. Batting behind Will Clark and Rafael Palmeiro. Jeff Brantley with the Giants on that team also.
Another 3-2. And this one's a pop-up in shallow left. Stalker takes charge. And that ends the inning. On to the bottom of the 8th in Philadelphia. 8-2 Toronto.
The Gulf of Mexico, where world-class fishermen like Jim come to battle the big boys.
Jim, you got one.
Yeah, hey, this calls for a celebration. How about a cold O'Doul's?
Thanks.
Only 70 calories and non-alcohol. Because out here, you never know what's biting.
When you want the refreshing taste of beer without all the alcohol, think O'Doul's. It's what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer.
You've waited for a Buick. You've waited for Buick quality at a low sticker price. You've waited for a car with Buick's reputation for safety. It seems you've waited for a century. Buick Century. With standard driver airbag, anti-lock brakes, power locks and windows, and more. All for $14,995. So don't wait any longer. See your Buick dealer today. This is the value of the century.
The thing is, 2 scoops of raisins make Kellogg's Raisin Bran taste so good, people forget it's good for them. What do you think?
Tastes good.
And?
It's delicious.
That's the same thing. See, it's Kellogg's, remember? So it tastes good and it's good for you.
Right. I forgot.
That's all right. Let's try again.
It tastes good.
And?
It's tasty.
And?
It's really tasty.
There are 2 reasons to eat Kellogg's Raisin Bran. The taste.
And?
Imagine a wonder drug that could help reduce minor arthritis pain so the Panthers wouldn't lose their star shortstop. One that could relieve headaches so more boys could come out to play. A drug that studies show reduces the risk of second heart attacks. Imagine a drug that holds answers to all these ailments so families could gather for years to come. A wonder drug? Yes, it's genuine Bayer aspirin. The wonder drug that works wonders.
With the Blue Jays in control, 8-2 as we head to the bottom of the 8th. We're now joined by Jim Fergosi's father, Archie Fergosi. And Archie, what advice will you give Jim for tomorrow?
I can't give him too much odds. He's doing a good job. I think he's doing a good coach job.
He tells us that you advise him and second-guess him quite a bit. So I know you'll have something to say tomorrow.
Well, I'll talk to him about the game today. But I can't give him too much coaching. He's doing a good job.
What advice would you give him then? What will you tell him?
Well,
you don't want to say?
That first inning, it was just a tough break. I can't tell you too much about that.
Do you second guess him quite a bit?
Sometimes, not too often.
Are you the guy who taught him all of his baseball?
Practically, I teach him quite a bit.
Now, you had a big decision whether or not to come to these games because you had to give up your third base coaching job for Gailey's Bakery back there in San Francisco. How tough a decision was it?
Well, it was all my life. I've been waiting for this, and it's my chance to do it. So I had to come to see these games.
Did the team win without you?
Well, I hope they did.
All right, Mr. Fergosi, thank you for joining us.
And his daughter's here, too.
Wife and daughter. Good to see the whole Fergosi family. Sean?
Thank you, Jim. Jim Eisenreich out on the bouncing ball to second. I'd be curious to know if Jim Fergosi second guesses Archie's third base coaching when he's in the box for Galley's Bakery out there in San Francisco.
Works both ways, doesn't it?
I don't know if Jim Gray is still in the vicinity, but it does work both ways, one would think.
Jim said that while he was playing, if he hit a home run, everybody would show up at Galley's Bakery the next morning, have a glass of champagne on Archie's son's home run, and then go on to work.
Mickey Morandini, the batter. He's up for the first time tonight. And Jim Gray off the air did pose the question to Archie Fergosi, and Archie says, yep, Jim Fergosi has second-guessed some of Archie's third base coachings. All's fair. 3-0 on Morandini. He's batting for Thigpen. You'll recall the double switch earlier. Thigpen inserted in the number 7 spot in the batting order. 2 outs, bases empty, bottom of the 8th. Toronto seemingly in control, 8-2. And after your late local news, we hope you'll stay tuned for The Late Show with David Letterman. His guests tonight are David Steinberg and Emmylou Harris. That's tonight on Late Show with David Letterman. Following your late local news. If I'm not mistaken, David Steinberg is Canadian. I would imagine he's a Blue Jay fan.
Huge following in Canada, obviously, for both the Montreal Expos and the Toronto Blue Jays.
Kevin Stocker is the hitter, and he looked at a strike. Wow. Dwayne Ward popping them out there. Our audio man, the best in the business in our opinion, Bob Siderman, celebrating a birthday tonight. All of us on CBS Baseball want to wish Bob a happy birthday. One bit of audio Bob does not want to hear is any of us singing for him. Tried that the other night on your birthday. We have plenty of cake left from the other night.
Yeah, we do.
Stick a few candles in it. Cox strikes out Stocker, and that ends the inning. And we go to the 9th, 8-2 Blue Jays.
Hey, what's this? You've been driving imports for years.
I like the Grand Am more.
Well, yeah, but looks aren't everything.
Excuse me.
Okay, so it's fun to drive.
Come on.
It's got anti-lock brakes and an airbag standard.
And even with a V6, it costs thousands less than a Accord or Camry.
Whoa, so I'm talking to a convert.
We are driving excitement, Pontiac.
It feels good to be driving American again.
Pontiac, Pontiac.
Oh, Mr. Energizer Bunny, out for a stroll. My matter desolidificator will put an end to your precious little source of power. Your hippity-hoppity days are over.
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer battery. It keeps going and going.
The great masters. They defined civilization in Europe for centuries. Now we're defining civilization on the way there. United Airlines' renowned international service to 15 cities all across Europe. Come fly the airline that's uniting the world. Come fly the friendly skies.
This is a Goodyear Aquatread, and this is a gallon of water. Aquatread's deep groove design channels water away. At highway speeds, it moves a gallon of water every second for outstanding wet traction. Aquatread, only from Goodyear.
Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Look to us for special delivery. Call us. We'll arrange to pick you up at your home, office, or repair shop. That's special delivery. That's Enterprise.
The Bob you love is back, and this time he's got Betty White and Jerry Burns.
Spank my little rear and watch me go.
Metaphorically, of course. The new Bob premieres Friday.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Well, the concert must be over across the street at the Spectrum because Madonna has made her way into the vet to catch the final innings of Game 3 of the World Series. We're heading to the 9th. It's 8-2 Toronto. And Paul Molitor will lead off. Chance for Molly to put the finishing touches on a big night. He tripled to drive in 2 in the first and scored. He had a solo home run in the third. He walked and scored in the 7th. Larry Anderson, the new pitcher for Philadelphia, missed with his first offering. Anderson, the 4th pitcher of the night, following Danny Jackson, Ben Rivera, and Bobby Thigpen. Thigpen pitched Inning in 2/3 of scoreless relief without allowing a hit. He walked one and hit a batter. Anderson making his second appearance in the World Series. And Molitor remains the only man in World Series history with 5 hits in one game. That was in '82 for Milwaukee. Stalker has to hurry. Safe. And Molitor has his 3rd hit of the night. He's on base for the 4th time.
It was a double clutch by Stalker, however, that allowed Molitor to get a hit. And an infield hit. You have to hurry, and Molitor running hard all the way beats the play.
Now Joe Carter. A look at strike 1. Joe had a sacrifice fly in the 1st. He singled in the 3rd, lined to left in the 5th, and struck out in the 7th. Speculated that perhaps Paul Molitor would come out. Olerud would go in for defense.
Yeah.
In the late innings, but at the very least, Molitor will go through 8.5 innings tonight. Gave you the note earlier about Olerud, the first league batting champion not to start a World Series game for his team since Chick Hafey of the Cardinals back in 1931. Now some of you might have been saying, what about Willie McGee? When we mentioned the note, we noted that it was batting champion of bat and lead. Of course, Willie McGee won the 1990 NL batting championship while with St. Louis, was traded to Oakland late in the season. Started only 2 of 4 games in the World Series. As you mentioned, the note involves Molitor in his own league. Nice play by Duncan. Safe at first. Carter ran hard to avoid the double play. And it was almost a beauty of a twin killing turn by Philadelphia. Duncan handled the hot smash and flipped it in a nice place for Stalker to handle it.
Not only the backhand of the one-hopper, Anderson just misses it, but watch how softly underneath the glove Duncan gives it to Stalker, and Carter is safe at first base. Fine play by Mariano Duncan. Talk about the performance of Molitor. Cito Gaston, I don't think is that we've really given him credit enough for showing the guts and the courage to play Molitor and taking the American League batting champion out of there in the process. It was a tough decision. I think he showed a lot of guts. He's going to be criticized one way or the other. I mean, what if Molitor has a bad game defensively and goes 0 for 4?
I think his feeling was, and the feeling of many Blue Jay fans is, that even though Olerud won the batting title, Molitor is really the most valuable player on the club and has been this year, and all that he has done.
So what do you do tomorrow night then? And Cito Gaston, yeah, and so Cito Gaston has said we'll probably keep him out tomorrow night, and again he's got to have second thoughts now since Molitor has played such a great game. But against a right-handed pitcher, you can't sit Olerud. Would Cito possibly be tempted to play him at third base tomorrow night? I mean, he did have the 3-6-1 double play that got him out of the 7th inning.
He really hasn't had any problems at first. He had the one ball that bounced by him, but that took a strange hop right down the line. The ball hit earlier in the game. And it makes sense from the standpoint that Sprague is at a tough time in the series. He's 1 for 11.
I mean, is the fact that Molitor looks comfortable at first base, is that enough to change Cito's mind to put him at third, combined with his offensive skills?
That's heading for the gap for Roberto Alomar. Carter will come around and score. Alomar's thinking about third, and he'll get there without a throw. It's 9-2 Toronto, and Roberto Alomar has his 4th hit of the night. 3 singles and a triple, He has driven in 2 runs tonight.
The only
stolen 2 bases and scored a run, and he's at third again.
The only time the Phillies have gotten Roberto out tonight was a line drive to Dave Hollins, his first time up. It's almost like he came out tonight probably a little embarrassed by the play made on Sunday night, with a new determination. Not that it takes a lot of determination for Alomar. Certainly has that.
Well, Cito Gaston said he didn't need to say anything to Alomar about the play because Roberto knew that it was a bad play. Tony Fernandez fouled the first pitch away. He has an infield hit, a sacrifice fly, and a walk tonight. Fly to right his first time up. Larry Anderson touched up for a run here in the 9th. The Jays with 12 hits now. The Phils have 8. It's 9-2 Toronto. The infield in for Philadelphia. On the outside corners as Mark Johnson. 1-2 on Fernandez with Ed Sprague on deck.
Ready,
2-2.
Phillies, keep in mind, were blown out of game 2 and 3 by the Atlanta Braves. They trailed 2 games to 1 and came back and won 3 in a row.
Base hit through the drawn-in infield. Fernandez has his second hit and second RBI of the night. Alomar scores for the second time, and the Blue Jays lead is 10-2. So it seems apparent now that the Jays will take a 2-1 lead into tomorrow night's Game 4, which comes your way here on CBS at 8 Eastern time. First pitch at 8:12 tomorrow night. Actually, it's later today. At least in the Eastern time zone. But the rain had something to do with the late hour tonight. Game delayed an hour and 12 minutes at the start. Sprague, a 1-hopper to Duncan. Good play by Kruk. Come off the bag on the errant throw. Sprague safe on the fielder's choice. Fernandez erased at second for 6. 2 outs and a runner at first for Toronto in the 9th inning. Pat Borders to hit next, and John Olerud is in the on-deck circle with the pitcher due up after Borders. First pitch, a swing and a miss by Borders. He was 0 for 3 last time. Lenny Dykstra made a great catch in the 7th inning of the pop fly hit by Borders in his shallow left center. Pat has walked tonight. Pop up near the Phillies dugout. That'll be a couple of rows back. 62,689 the official attendance here tonight. 62,689 at Veterans Stadium. A lot of them have gone home. The 1-2 to Borders, way outside. And as we mentioned, John Olerud might get a chance to hit. Dykstra snares the line drive. The Blue Jays get 2 more in the 9th, and as we go to the bottom of the 9th, it's 10-2 Toronto.
John Ritter and Marky Post are moving back home.
I thought
everyone around here is supposed to be happy.
They were when I left.
Maybe you should leave again.
Hearts of Fire. It's a new night, a new time, and a whole new way of life.
This town is one of the last bastions of common sense, decency, and old-fashioned values.
Well, exactly when did you blow back in, Beaver?
Hearts of Fire returns October 27th.
Walt Disney Pictures presents...
You're under arrest.
5 of them, 3 of us. Hardly seems fair.
Excuse me, but there's 4 of us.
Now, we're prepared to resist. The greatest heroes that ever lived.
I want those musketeers dead or alive.
Champagne?
We're in the middle of a chase, Porthos. You're right. Something red.
We must pray for our sins. Charlie Sheen.
Second thought, God's often busy.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Save the king!
Chris O'Donnell.
Long live the musketeers!
Oliver Platt.
That's it. Next time you drive.
Tim Curry.
A snap of my fingers, and you could be back on the block where I found you.
And Rebecca de Mornay.
And with a flick of my wrist, I could change your religion.
The Three Musketeers. Rated PG. Starts Friday, November 12th.
I can take care of myself in the ring, but in my car, I trust Meineke for safe, reliable brake service at a low price.
Now more than ever, at Meineke, you're not going to pay a lot, but you'll get a lot.
I guarantee it.
I try to treat the people that I deal with like I would expect to be treated myself.
You have to understand people. You have to understand what their needs are.
Deliver more than you promise and hang in there till you get the job done.
Century 21, rated most professional in real estate.
Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel. Terry's getting ready for his first ever National Football Quiz.
Defense nicknamed the Doomsday Defense. What's a defensive stunt?
Terry's National Football Quiz coming Sunday on the NFL Today, and you can play along.
Study hard.
Our coverage of the 1993 World Series is produced by Bob Dekus, directed by Bob Fishman. The associate directors are Steve Shear and Pete Macheska. The coordinating producer of Baseball 93 is Eric Mann. Baseball 93 produced by George Veras. The senior producer of CBS Sports is Ed Gorn. The executive, that's the second night in a row I've mispronounced that word, executive, in charge of production is Rick Gentile. Technical managers David Graham and Jim Ripple. Technical directors Jeff Ringel and Angelo DeTroia. And we appreciate the efforts of all of those fine people and the rest of our outstanding crew. Dwayne Ward in to get some work in what is obviously not a save situation in the bottom of the ninth, with the Blue Jays leading by 8. Milt Thompson came in as part of a double switch, and an infield hit and a run scored in the 7th inning, and is only at bat tonight. Ward led the American League with 45 saves this year. Became the first Blue Jay to lead the league in saves. And he was an all-star for the first time this year. He's ahead of Thompson, 1 and 2. Lenny Dykstra is on deck, and then Mariano Duncan. To right and well hit. Carter sprinting back and looking up. Home run, Milt Thompson. A line drive homer over the 371 mark, and a rude greeting for Dwayne Ward. It's 10-3.
This ball hit like a bullet out of here. Sometimes you have a short reliever come in for a tune-up, and if he gives up a couple of runs, you don't know whether from a mental standpoint he is better going back out there the second night in a row. Remarkably, Dwayne Ward has appeared in 6 postseason games, and all of the leadoff men have gotten on in all 6 games. And Milt Thompson not only gets on, he gets across.
Dykstra out on the well-hit ball to Alomar. Well, of course, Phillies fans saying, what's so remarkable about that? Mitch Williams does that every time, too, with the lead man on.
Yeah, right. You expect it out of Mitch. Part of his repertoire, but not out of Dwayne Ward.
1 out in the ninth, 10-3 in favor of Toronto. Duncan, another good night. 2 for 4, 2 singles, and RBI. knocked the mitt off the hand of Borders with that foul ball. Duncan has 6 hits in the 3 games. He's 6 for 13.
That is also the 3rd home run given up by Dwayne Ward in his 6 postseason appearances.
Oh, 0-2. Duncan took a nasty slider. Kruk is on deck. And the Blue Jays are 1 out away from victory in Game 3 as Duncan goes down swinging for the 2nd out of the 9th.
I guess it's a tale of 2 sides of the plate. The left-handers with all the success against Ward. Right-handed batters in postseason play. Of the 8 that have faced him, he has struck out 7.
John Kruk has had a perfect night. 2 for 2, single and a double. He's walked his last 2 plate appearances.
You know, those numbers we just rattled off about the lack of success against left-handers and the great success against right-handers obviously is not going to come into play here in this blowout, but it could tomorrow night and Thursday night.
Waving swing. There have been 36 runs scored in the first 3 games of this series. We thought it would be high scoring with these 2 productive teams. That's the highest combined run total in the first 3 games of the World Series since 1960, when the Yankees and Pirates combined for 39 runs in the first 3 games of the 60 series.
In the 3 wins that year, the Yankees scored 38 runs. They out-hit the Pirates 55-27.
So there are no carryovers.
No.
In baseball.
That's why Phillies fans have a lot to look forward to. I mean, so tonight was a blowout, but the Atlanta Braves blew them out of 2 games. Both games that they lost to Atlanta were both blowouts.
Jim Leland said to us last year, momentum is only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. And the starting pitchers tomorrow will be Tommy Green for Philadelphia and Todd Stottlemyre for Toronto.
Tommy Green, by the way, has lost 1 time at Veterans Stadium this year, and that was that blowout. First game Atlanta won, Game 2 of the NLCS.
Backdoor breaking ball missed. 2-2 on Kruk. And he fought it off. The Phillies cling to life here in Game 3. Kruk continues to foul off pitches. Should he keep the Phillies alive, Dave Hollins would have another chance to bat. And that ends the ball game. Dwayne Ward strikes out Kruk, and Game 3 of the World Series goes to Toronto by a count of 10-3. We'll have more from Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia right after this.
You've got to attack the courses. You've got to master the machinery. You've got to use all your resources.
It's not really that difficult to earn the name Goodwrench.
All it takes is all you've got.
Goodwrench, raising the standards of performance on the track and in your GM dealership.
I'll tell you where the time goes. Every year I spend 3,000 hours sleeping, 500 hours commuting, 2,000 hours working. Then I get this idea, boing. Every day for lunch I order one of McDonald's extra value meals. Now I'm not only saving money, I'm in and out so fast I figure I'm saving 5-6 hours a week, huh? That's nearly 2 weeks of free time a year. So in 12 months I'm gonna have all this extra cash plus 2 extra weeks. And right now I'm thinking Hawaii.
What you want is what you get.
What?
At McDonald's today.
Hold on. I don't just overnight the package.
Yeah, sure. Overnight it. Might as well overnight it.
Overnight this.
Overnight that. Overnight.
Overnight.
Sometimes overnight is overkill. So kick the habit with Priority Mail from the Postal Service. It's not overnight, but it's fast delivery, special handling, and 2 pounds is only $2.90.
Morning. Thanks.
When overnight is overdoing it, remember, we deliver for you. Call and we'll start today.
Everybody thinks programming a VCR is so incredibly complicated. Record Channel 3 Sunday, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. What's the problem?
Magnavox, the only VCR with Smart Talk remote. Smart, very smart.
Who makes the only TV with the Smart Sound feature, which ensures your volume will stay at normal levels, even when something like this comes on?
Magnavox, smart, very smart.
Yes! No use shouting, old man.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 3 of the 1993 World Series is brought to you by O'Doul's from Anheuser-Busch. Premium beer taste without the alcohol. Pontiac and your local Pontiac dealer. We are driving excitement. The ingenious products from Magnavox. They're smart, very smart. And by Enterprise Rent-A-Car, the special delivery company.
Time of the ball game, 3 hours and 16 minutes. The shortest game in the series today. Toronto wins Game 3. 10-3. The Chevrolet player of the game is Paul Molitor of the Toronto Blue Jays. He was 3 for 4 on base 4 times. He scored 3 and drove in 3. Among his hits, a triple and a solo home run. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in the name of Paul Molitor to the Special Olympics. And now let's join Jim Gray.
All right, Sean. Paul, what are you more proud of? The 3 hits you had, the home run, the triple and the single, or the double play you turned?
Well, I'm not sure if it was a double play, but somehow I survived the defensive aspect of the game. It was a strange feeling after not being out there for a while, but thankfully, when I did make a couple mistakes, Pat picked me up on the mound. And the big thing is we got off to a good start offensively. Pat pitched well and regained the 1-game advantage, so it's nice to rebound the way we did.
It's going to sound like a strange question, but are you going to play tomorrow?
You know, right now I don't think that I will be playing, unfortunately. I'd love to be back in there and get a chance to be a part of hopefully going up 3-1 tomorrow night. But if Cito's comments before the game indicate anything, and that's he's going to go with Eddie at third and John at first tomorrow.
I'd bench you too. Let's go back upstairs to Sean and Timmy.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jim, and congratulations to Paul Molitor. Once again, the final score of Game 3, 10-3 Toronto. Back in a moment.
Jell-O gelatin's just 12 cents a serving. That's 4 cents for the giggles, 4 cents for the improved motor skills, and 4 cents for creativity.
I know Jell-O.
Whatever your budget, there's always room for Jell-O.
Why not?
Now that he switched to Fix-It-Ent, he can go from morning till night and still eat like that.
Even in the hottest liquids, when other adhesives stop holding, Fix-It-Ent holds stronger and longer. For the strongest, longest hold, Fix-It-Ent and forget it.
Americans have always had a love affair with their cars.
Do you love? Who do you love? Yeah, who do you love?
And when it comes to plugs and filters, we guarantee to keep that spark going for a long, long time.
Corning presents an exciting debut, Pink Plus, a new insulation that's silky to the touch. The reason? Pink Plus is our famous pink fiberglass insulation wrapped in smooth pink poly, which also makes it extra easy to install. So get in touch with a premier insulation. For the Pink Plus dealer nearest you, call 1-800-GET-PINK.
The Late Show with David Letterman comes your way following your late local news. Dave's guests tonight are David Steinberg and Emmylou Harris. Now for Tim McCarver, Pat O'Brien, Jim Gray. I'm Sean McDonough saying so long from Veterans Stadium. The final score, Toronto 10 and Philadelphia 3. You have been watching CBS Sports coverage of the 1993 World Series. Good night from Philadelphia.